Excellencies, professors, friends of Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi, distinguished guests. My name is Jumala Shawki, a Master in International Law, International Relations and Diplomacy, and I'm honored to be your Master of Ceremony for this afternoon. Welcome to the inaugural conference of the Ocean Institute of Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi, organized in collaboration with the United Nations Ocean Conference 2025, the Embassy of France, the Embassy of Costa Rica, Pure Ocean Foundation, the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi, and MENA Ocean Initiative, which continue the adventure in Dubai the 10th June with the MENA Ocean Summit. Today, we are delighted to welcome all of you in this beautiful and inspiring theater, named after the founding father of the United Arab Emirates, His Highness Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan. May his soul rest in peace. To quote his words, on land and in the sea, our forefathers lived and survived in this environment. They were able to do so because they recognized the need to conserve it and to take from it only what they needed to live and to preserve it for succeeding generations. And today, we take actions following the same path. We, the United Arab Emirates, France, and Costa Rica, come together under the same vision in the lead to the United Nations Ocean Conference 2025 to reflect on the preservation and the protection of an ocean that the future generation will need more than ever in the fight for climate change. So, without further ado, let's dive into an afternoon of discussions with our esteemed speakers. Dear guests, please welcome on stage His Excellency Nicolas Nimchinov, Ambassador of France to the UAE.
Excellencies, dear Nathalie Bras, Vice Chancellor of the Sorbonne Abu Dhabi, dear Ashok, Deputy Special Envoy for UNOC 3, dear esteemed colleagues, Amiral, sorry I don't see you very well because the light is very strong, dear friends and students of the Sorbonne Abu Dhabi, it is a great privilege and a real pleasure for me to open this extremely important conference today with my dear friend and colleague, the Ambassador of Costa Rica, dear Francisco. You're here. Allow me first of all to commend the fantastic work done by SUAD to organize this event with such high-level speakers a couple of months after the launch of the Ocean Institute, which I'm sure will be a leading research institute in this region. Ocean is an issue dear to my country, dear to France, because oceans belongs to the geography and history of my country. We tend to forget it, but France is a maritime power. Everybody, of course, has in mind the mainland territory of France, bordered by the Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Sea, but one must not forget the multiple overseas French territories located in Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, and stretching to the Antarctic Ocean. My country, France, has the second largest maritime domain in the world, 11 millions of square kilometers, after the United States, and has maritime borders with more than 30 states. That's to say that ocean is a part of the everyday life of many French people, and actually of all of us here. Indeed, we feel it very well here in the UAE, in this country located at the crossroads of many continents and which embodies in a way, maybe more than any other country, the exceptional connectivity that seas and oceans can offer to human societies. The ocean is one of the most precious goods, but it is also, and we know that now very clearly, that it is also in danger. This is one of the very important messages delivered by the French President, Emmanuel Macron, during the COP28, during an event devoted to this issue. We all know that very clearly now, thanks to the research community, and I'm glad that we have among us today prominent researchers. We know also that the good health of the ocean is essential to our future, be it for maritime resources, climate change mitigation, or the worrying rising level of the seas. Time has come to take action to protect our oceans with the same level of attention and ambition and determination we've shown to fight against the climate change. And by the way, this is the same issue. Actually, the fight against climate change cannot be achieved without protecting our oceans, as oceans are crucial to capture carbon. So France and Costa Rica, dear Francisco, share for a long time this belief, this conviction, and this commitment. Both our countries have launched in 2019 the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People, gathering today 117 countries with the aim to protecting 30% of the world's earth and ocean by 2030. In February 2022, France has organized the One Ocean Summit in the French city of Brest, attended by representatives of more than 100 countries who choose to take action to preserve biodiversity, to stop over-exploitation of maritime resources. We know, for instance, here that the Indian Ocean is looted every day, to fighting pollution and to mitigate climate change. So looking ahead, France and Costa Rica will co-host the third edition of UNOC, the United Nations Ocean Conference, to be held in Nice, the city of Nice on the Mediterranean Sea, in June 2025. This is going to be the next major international event on ocean, and we want UNOC 3 to be, in a way, the COP28 of the ocean. Our ambition, ladies and gentlemen, is high, and we want to mobilize the international community with us. UNOC 3 will be action-oriented with three main objectives. First one, advance multilateral process related to ocean, the Global Treaty on Plastic Pollution, the BBNG Treaty, Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction. Second, support the development of the sustainable blue economy. And third, and you hear, strengthen the scientific knowledge on ocean to help to take the good decisions. On these three objectives, the UAE is for us a natural and indispensable partner, and we are committed to working closely with UAE government in the run-up of the UNOC 3 in Nice. So I'm very happy to see that those three objectives will be addressed today by the different panelists. It's extremely useful. This ocean conference today is the first step of a promising journey in ocean research here in the UAE, and I am extremely happy that it is taking place in the Sorbonne University today with all of our friends. And I'm sure that the Ocean Institute of the Sorbonne Abu Dhabi will be a major regional player in this regard, and it can count on our full support. So I wish you all a great conference, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Please welcome on stage His Excellency Francisco Chacon Hernandez, Ambassador of Costa Rica to the United Arab Emirates.
Good afternoon. First of all, allow me to thank my dear colleague Nicolas for those amazing words and for the partnership that we've built with France in the run-up to the UN Third Ocean Conference in Nice. Costa Rica and France have a long tradition of partnering in environmental issues, and the ocean is certainly an important component of our bilateral action and also our multilateral action. So I want to highlight the presence of the ambassador and also the deputy representative for the ocean of the government of France. We are very proud of this partnership, and we are committed to having a great success in Nice and to kickstart the process at the high-level event on ocean action that we will be hosting in Costa Rica close to next week, where we will be discussing thematics that will make us reflect on the state of the ocean, the actions we are to do together, and to recognize the importance and the unity we have to think in terms of the overall climate of the planet when we address the ocean and its problems and its causes and its possible solutions. So allow me to say that I'm very proud to stand here as an ambassador of a country that breeds environmental sustainability. Costa Rica, and I think it is no surprise to anybody, is fully committed since very beginning to the environment, to climate change, to make a progressive, innovative, and in some ways, disruptive efforts to call on the attention of the health of the planet. And we have done so with great consciousness. And as we approach the kickstart process, or final process towards Nice, we want to highlight that the ocean is a very important part of the solution for the climate. The ocean has a lot of challenges, and yet it is so important for our coastal populations, especially in the developing world. In my home country, Costa Rica, the people that lives on the coastal areas are people with the most needs, and their household depend on the health of the ocean. It is part of their lives. It has been part of their lives, and probably it will remain part of their lives. So, in working for their material prosperity, we also have to think on the human component that lives from the ocean in protecting the ocean. For that reason too, the blue economy is also part of our deliberations. And as a man of close to 56 years old, I would like to reflect on a very famous French which we educated ourselves as when we were learning about the ocean. And I recall here Jacques Cousteau, because we, in my generation, we all learned to love and care for the ocean through the voyages of the Calypso and of Jacques Cousteau. And in remembering his life and his achievements, I would like to say, or he has a lot of famous quotes, but there is one which resembles what I would like to express here. He was comparing the bee and the dolphin, and how he said the beauty of the bee and the dolphin is its existence. And the marvelous thing of a human being is the possibility of viewing that existence. And I don't want to get into the shoes of somebody as savvy as he was, but I reflect that what he was trying to say is that the green and the blue are indivisible. And if we care for the green, we have to bring the blue on board. If we care for the blue, we have to bring the green on board. When I stand here before you, I go back to my 20s and so on, when I was seeing the voyages of the Calypso, and I remember his legacy. And it also reflects me of the daily life of the fishermen and of the people that make a living out of the sea. And how important it is that you all, the scientific world, help us and help our countries to really bring a solution to this problem. Because this problem cannot go on. The ocean cannot be more contaminated than it is, and we need to be part of the solution. We need to speak strongly. We need to speak loud. We need to speak with one word, and the word is ocean. And we wish everybody here a fruitful discussion. I'm a Latin, so I could go on and on and on and on, and I don't want to give the impression that I'm not aware of that. But I would just want to say, to finish, expressing myself in that when you reflect today, you have the Jacques Cousteau in mind. And as you conclude, you might want to think of his legacy, and let's all pay respects to what he did for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And now, let's conclude our welcoming remarks by calling to the stage Professor Nathalie Martial-Braz, Vice-Chancellor of Sorbonne University, Abu Dhabi.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, dear Nicolas Niemchinov, Ambassador of France here in the UAE, dear Excellency Francisco Chacon Hernandez, Ambassador of Costa Rica here in the UAE, Your Excellency Ashok Adiseam, Head of International Mobilization and Deputy Special Envoy for the UNOC 3, Your Excellencies, Ambassador from all over the world, dear guests, sponsors and partners, and particularly their Environment Agency and Pure Ocean. Dear guests, dear students, dear colleagues, it is with a very huge pleasure and an immense pride that I welcome you today at Sorbonne University, Abu Dhabi, to introduce an essential conference in the journey toward the UN conference. I think we are all concerned by ocean. We are all, as you said, your ambassador, concerned by the solution. Science, policy, and blue economy are all concerned, and it's a common ambition, not only for France and Costa Rica, who are co-hosts of the UNOC conference, but also for the UAE. For that reason, we are particularly proud at SUAD to use this occasion to inaugurate the new Ocean Institute with this essential conference and with the exhibition of the picture made by Christophe Chelapemal, sorry for the bad spelling of the name, and for the intervention of Pure Ocean. You can admire all the picture in the atrium. The Ocean Institute was launched during Ocean Day at COP28 last December, and this conference embodies the beginning of a new era of research here in Abu Dhabi, in Sorbonne University, and a new... No, it doesn't work. Yes, it works again. And a new era of collaboration with all the partners in the field. Thanks to the huge work made by the Institut de l'Océan in France, led by the Amiral Prazuc, today we can launch the little brother of this institute here in Sorbonne University, Abu Dhabi. Today marks a significant milestone as we gather to discuss, deliberate, and chart a course towards a healthier and more sustainable future for ocean. France and Costa Rica are set to co-host the third United Nations Ocean Conference in Nice in the next June 2025. This conference is a testament to our collective commitment to address the urgent challenges facing our oceans and to work towards their preservation and sustainable use. The forthcoming UN Ocean Conference is underpinned by three pivotal priorities that will shape our discussion today and our action for tomorrow. First and foremost, we have to advance ocean-related multilateral processes. We are on the brink of significant process with the ICES agreement and the negotiation of the Plastic Treaty. These multilateral processes are crucial for raising the level of ambition and commitment to ocean protection. The goal is to ensure these agreements come to fruition and set a robust framework for the future. We have then to mobilize funding for a sustainable blue economy. The transition to a blue sustainable economy requires sustainable and substantial investments. We must mobilize resources and innovative financing mechanisms to support sustainable ocean-based economic activities. By doing so, we can ensure that economic growth and ocean health go hand in hand. It's also crucial, and it's the third pivot, it's also crucial to strengthen ocean science and knowledge dissemination. Informed decision-making is a key to effective ocean governance. We need to enhance our understanding of ocean sciences and ensure that this knowledge is widely disseminated. This will enable policymakers to make evidence-based decisions that promote the long-term health and resilience for our oceans. Today's meeting is therefore the first opportunity for prominent researchers to launch discussion and to launch their work on these issues with the aim of being a step forward for the UNOC conference. As we embark on this journey, let us remember that the health of our oceans is intrinsically linked to the health of our planet and future generations. The collaboration between the UAE, France, and Costa Rica exemplifies the spirit of international cooperation and shared the responsibility that these essential challenges has to be tackled. The establishment of the new Ocean Institute at Sorbonne University, Abu Dhabi, is a beacon of hope and innovation in ocean research. It symbolizes our commitment at SUAD University, Abu Dhabi, to advancing scientific knowledge and fostering international partnerships to protect our oceans. Together, we can make significant strides towards a sustainable blue economy, protect our marine ecosystem, and ensure that our oceans remain a source of life and prosperity for all. Thank you for your dedication and your commitment today, and I look forward to the fruitful discussion and innovative solution that will emerge this conference and the future conference in Nice in 2025. Let us seize the opportunity to make a lasting impact on our ocean and in our world. Thank you very much, and have a good conference.
Thank you, Professor. For our first panel of the day, dedicated to ocean policy, blue economy, and civil society, please join me in welcoming Ashok Adiseam, Head of International Mobilization and Deputy Special Envoy for the United Nations Ocean Conference, Stephanie Okenden, Deputy Head of Secretariat for the High-Level Panel for a Sustainable Ocean Economy at the World Resources Institute, Marina Antonopoulou, Senior Director of Climate Change and Nature Conservation at Emirates Nature WWF. And finally, Admiral Christophe Prazuk, Director of the Ocean Institute and former Chief of the French Navy.
Thank you. Excellencies, Madame la Vice-Chancelière, Monsieur l'ambassadeur de France, Monsieur l'ambassadeur du Costa Rica, Monsieur l'ambassadeur du Maroc, Monsieur l'ambassadeur du Venezuela, Excellencies and dear guests. I'll just stand because first to congratulate you for organizing, but also for your fantastic introductions, which actually have removed all what I have to say as the Deputy Special Envoy of the President and Deputy Ambassador for the Ocean. I'll speak in the name of Olivier Poire d'Arvor, the Ambassador for the Ocean and the Poles, but also as Head of International Mobilization for UNOC. And that's why I'm here, and I thank you for the invitation, and I thank especially Admiral Christophe Prazuk and l'Institut de l'Océan for making this possible, and all your teams, fantastic teams, who have made this possible, Ambassador, with your own team from the French Embassy and also the team of the Embassy of Costa Rica. So you have said it all. I said the three priorities: multilateral governance of the ocean, science, and ocean finance and blue economy. That's our triangle. Out of the triangle, we have three UNOC special events which translate these priorities. And I'll come back to date, time, and venues and the logistics of that. But the most important is the substance, especially in this house, which is the Sorbonne University in Abu Dhabi. At the heart of this substance is the academia, the science, and how to engage through science policymakers, but there's no policy and there's no action without money. So basically, our three special events will be dedicated to science, and that's why Admiral Christophe Prazuk, although you are having a whole panel after this panel, you're here to speak about the One Ocean Science Congress, which will happen from the 4th to the 6th of June 2025. We're inviting 2,000 scientists from the world over with the CNRS, with IFREMER, but also with the International Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO at PAR, organizing this event. And Christophe, if I may, you're part of this organizing committee, so maybe we could exchange in this conversational mode some items and some topics, especially to gather more energies, projects, and ideas from the floor, but also from the Emirates, to be part of this journey, as you said, Ambassador Nicolas, towards Nice in June 2025. The second UNOC special event will be dedicated to the Blue Economy and the Finance Forum, which will be organized by France, Costa Rica, in partnership with the Principality of Monaco, and in partnership with the Ocean Panel. The Ocean Panel is, allow me to say this, Stephanie, is a club, I would say, of great maritime countries, France is part of the club, but it's not a closed club. It's open to different countries, and we are engaging with the Middle East in discussions with different stakeholders of the ocean in this region to enhance, through specific criteria, a sustainable ocean and a sustainable blue economy. And that's the reason why Stéphanie, you're the deputy head of the General Secretariat of this ocean panel, which brings together 18 Sherpas representing personally the heads of states and governments part of this panel. You will let us know more about that, but we are engaging with you towards UNOC in this BEF, in this Blue Economy and Finance Forum, and you'll tell us more about where we are today. We're working together on that, and what is expected again from science to policymakers in this Blue Economy and Finance Forum, which will be on the 7th and on the 8th of June 2025. And Marina from WWF, you are here in Abu Dhabi, in the Emirates. You've been working for some time now with the WWF. It was important also for us to have you in this panel to speak specifically of coastal resilience and how the program that we're going to share just now echoes with the problematics here. Because what we are trying to do and what we have already started with our team in Paris is to engage with specific thematics. So these are the three main thematics I've discussed, but there are other that we're going to share with you. And hopefully after 45 minutes of this panel, we'll open the floor with your permission, Madame la Vice-Chancelière, to the audience to interact with you, respond to your questions, but also write down your ideas to take them forward towards Nice. But it's this territory which is the most important for us today and for the months to come. As I've heard, there's a lot of collaborations between our two countries, France and Costa Rica, and all the different countries represented here, to take the ocean agenda forward, guided by the light of the academia, of the science, to make all our decisions science-based and towards prosperity and protection. And these are, I think, the two legs with which we are walking towards Nice. And we can't do that without the Institut de l'Océan. So, Christophe, if I may, Admiral, first, why are we here? And what was your idea in bringing us together with this panel on the process towards UNOC, and what's happening with the One Ocean Science Conference in the preparation?
Okay. Well, as you can see, I'm the invisible man in charge of the organization. And if the organization is working well, it's invisible. I suggested that you came here because the question of the ocean is in the medias, in the political agenda, with the UN Ocean Decade, with the One Ocean Summit in France. And since Sorbonne University here in Abu Dhabi is creating an Ocean Institute, it was interesting to make a parallel between the political issues on the oceans and the scientific efforts made here in Suad. So you accepted to give this broad view on what are we waiting, what are the issues about the ocean, not only in science, but in economy, but in coastal region. And having you here is allowing us to have this broad picture in which Suad Ocean Institute will take its part.
Thank you. I'll jump into questions for Stéphanie and Marina, but at this point, what I have gathered till now, listening to you, is that we are really launching here today, I think, an agenda with the Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi and l'Institut de l'Océan, where regularly you want to invite scientists, but also decision makers and actors, stakeholders from the blue economy to elevate the agenda of the ocean in the region and specifically in the Emirates. I want to salute them and thank them for their partnership today. Tomorrow, I'll let you know what's happening tomorrow, but also congratulate them for what they're preparing for the 10th of June, is MENA Ocean with Tatiana, who's somewhere in the floor, Tatiana, and Anuradha, who works with Tatiana and the whole team of Gumbuk, organizing the MENA Ocean, which is Middle East and North Africa Ocean Summit. We hope that next year, with more notice, we'll be able to collaborate and definitely will benefit from the plan and the agenda that you're preparing here. So thank you very much, Admiral, for the vision of asking us to come and do our job here, which is to mobilize the international community and take forward the ideas and the actors from this territory to the thematics and to the multilateral rendezvous, which is Nice with the UN conference. Stephanie, I think we need some pedagogy to first understand what is the Ocean Panel, better than what I said, and what is in the agenda towards UNOC for the countries represented at the Ocean Panel before we engage on the BEF.
Thank you, Ashok. So thank you for the invitation to join you and colleagues on this panel, and to our hosts, many thanks. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be speaking to you all. A few words on the Ocean Panel. So the Ocean Panel is a unique initiative of serving heads of state and government. Currently 18 heads of state, 18 countries, large and small, and I think often best depicted by our two co-chairs, Norway and Palau. And together, these 18 countries make up 50% of the world's coastlines and 45% of EEZs. So a small group of countries, but a really critical group. And this leadership level at head of state is so important to ensure that there is the authority in country to really drive forward the agenda of the ocean. I think many of us that work on ocean topics know it's a challenging one. It's the ocean, there's one ocean, 70% of our planet, and yet often in country, on land, in ministries, it's a topic that cuts across many different areas and is quite hard to coordinate and elevate. And so the panel seeks to do this. The second really unique aspect of the high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy is its mission. So it's towards a sustainable ocean economy where effective protection, efficient production, and equitable prosperity should go hand in hand. So it's about really getting that balance between the two. And that was the real driving force for when the panel was first set up in 2018, to really ensure that shared narrative in terms of the need to bring the science together with the economics, together with the actors, to really recognize that we need all parts together to address the state of the emergency that the ocean is currently in. So that's a little bit of the background.
Can you tell us, thank you for that, can you tell us more about also the 350 experts that you have for some months and years now gathered on very specific scientific activities and knowledge that you're sharing within this club of 19 heads of states and governments? So it's a very important club, notably something that we recently discussed in Paris when the Sherpas met at the UNESCO 10 days ago, seabed mining. But there are other also topics that you have brought forward, and the production of knowledge. And this production of knowledge also could feed the reflections and the discussions here in the months to come.
Absolutely, thanks, Ashok, and great to be here in this academic setting, because how the panel has chosen to work is to put knowledge at the heart of what it's done. So it started by commissioning 16 initial research products, drawing on expertise, demand-driven but independent expert advice from academic institutions, from other key organizations around the world. I think we've now mobilized experts across 53 countries over 350 experts, as you noted, Ashok, and we're always thinking about equality in that as well. And we currently have a 50-50 gender balance too, which is no mean feat. And the panel has really worked by commissioning this knowledge and using that knowledge to then drive forward its work, taking those key messages and putting those at the science to policy interface in order to come up with those political recommendations, those calls for action, to then take the next step forward in terms of driving action forward on the ground as well. And the first phase of knowledge that it pulled together had these 16 blue papers or reports. They're on our website, and we're very happy to share more details on those. But the first phase led to the development of the Ocean Panel's transformations agenda. So that was released in 2020. And that really set out the course for how the Ocean Panel seeks to realise a sustainable ocean economy with its headline commitment to, for each country, realise 100% sustainable ocean management by 2030, and to do that through the development of sustainable ocean plans. So the panel has worked with knowledge at the heart of what it does, pulling together this wealth of information, using that to guide its work. Going forward, we're now in that implementation phase, and we're really keen to work with all stakeholders, experts, civil society, to really drive forward the agenda, recognising that we need partnerships to achieve the high aims we have.
No, sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but just one figure that you recently published with the whole report on that figure, speaking about indicators for the ocean, is this number, which is 33 or 34% of the carbon sink that the sea, the ocean, provides to the planet. Could you just elaborate on that? Because I think then we come back to the indicators for the ocean later. But this is one of the findings which is very crucial for the ocean's management, I would say.
Absolutely. So you're referring to our updated report, The Ocean as a Climate Solution. So that was released just ahead of COP28 last year, very much recognising the critical audience convened here in UAE, in Dubai. And it assessed the potential to reduce emissions across the 7 ocean-based sectors of the economy. And the key finding of that, as you noted, is that the ocean has the potential to reduce up to 35% of the emission reductions required to keep the world on track to a 1.5 degree pathway. So 35% of the emission cuts needed to keep on track to the Paris Agreement, and that's in 2050, just to caveat the stats. So that is a huge share of what needs to be done. And I think we all know that achieving the Paris Agreement is vital to the health of the ocean. That figure is based on ready-to-implement solutions. So with the experts that were commissioned to put this report together, there was a lot of scrutiny about some of the potential future technologies and innovations. No huge assumptions were made, but very much based on ready-to-implement solutions that could be actioned now. And I think that's perhaps a great segue into actually wider discussions, because in order to make those actions achievable, there needs to be finance, there needs to be some monitoring, so some further research in some areas, but ultimately the political will to drive this forward too.
We'll come back to that with the BEF, if you allow me, Stephanie, but at this stage, we can remember that 35% of the emissions can be filled, that gap can be filled by the ocean in order to, if we wanted to, still respect the Paris Agreement and the 1.5. I'm not sure that scientists that you are gathering with l'Institut de l'Océan think that that's still possible, but that will be maybe a discussion in the next panel or in the next panels in the Sorbonne University in Abu Dhabi. If you allow me, Stephanie, we'll go to have a small talk with Marina. For you, Marina, what are the main issues at stake here for the ocean in the Emirates? It's not that we have 3 hours in front of us, but what are the three major points that you would think that we should or we could address, taking the opportunity of UNOC 3, taking the opportunity of this ambitious goals that we are fixing with Costa Rica, but also with the international community for next year, and what is achievable, and what is specific here that we should take into account, especially from your own voice, which is a voice of a fantastic NGO, independent, but based here in WF, and which has specific challenges, or I would say opportunities also to bring to the table.
Thank you, Ashok, and let me also echo the rest of the panelists, thanking the organizers for inviting us in this important conference. And thank you to the esteemed guests as well for the inspiring speeches earlier. Maybe if you allow me just to start why I believe, as well on behalf of WWF, but also on Emirates Nature WWF, why it's an interesting and critical moment of having UNOC, the 3rd edition of UNOC, now compared to a few years ago. And of course, thanks to the scientific community, we've been documenting, if you like, of course, the critical state of the ocean. Finally, we're starting paying attention on these daunting statistics. And we also realize quite well what is the economic value of ocean and ocean ecosystems for our economies and societies. What we haven't seen is action at scale, right? That kind of bends that a little bit, that curve. And what we've seen, although what we do have today, this year and next year, compared to the rest, is that we do have multilateral environmental agreements such as the GBF, the Global Biodiversity Framework, right? Really giving us a framework with clear, measurable
and BBNG
targets.
as well, and the
High Seas Alliance Treaty, the Plastics Treaty. These are landmark agreements, and of course, we need to have ratification, as we mentioned earlier. But it took a decade almost, right, for states to negotiate those. And
what is the situation, sorry to interrupt, on the ratification process here in the Emirates for the High Seas Treaty, BBNJ?
So I believe a lot of countries still yet to be ratifying, but UAE as well, together with other countries, have agreed on that treaty. But ratification, I think, is being rolled out now. But I guess going back to where we are now, I think what would be very nice to see now at the UNOC 3 is that convergence of the agendas. I think also Stephanie mentioned about the importance of the ocean in the climate agenda. COP28, since we're in the UAE and reflecting on the successes of COP28, major decisions of COP28 finally recognize the importance of the ocean when it comes to our climate mitigation and adaptation agenda. So these are political signals, right, that create a massive move across the society and economy. But the question maybe for the 3rd edition is, how do you converge those agendas? And what does it take from commitments to take them to action? And the question is, can we integrate those commitments further to economic development agenda? So that's kind of something that we, with WWF International and other members of the civil society, would be very keen to see. And of course, the scientific community and NGOs are very keen to explore those solutions. From the civil society point of view, I think what we're also seeing is that, again, together with scientists, NGOs, and private sector, we're trying to develop tools that are science-based and can guide decision-making. So globally, we've seen a lot of tools now led by the industry that translate, for example, the risks of losing biodiversity to financial risks. And that's something that it would also be interesting in the finance session for UNOC 3 to start exploring, right? The Task Force for Nature-Related Financial Disclosures. Earlier in January, we had a cohort of first adopters, and we have some companies in the UAE as well signing up to the TNFD, right? Strong signal in that sense that we do recognize that biodiversity matters for our business models. And broadly speaking, I'd say that we do want to explore that agenda with all the partners. In the UAE, we're working collaboratively as well. We're a science-based organization, and we've been working over the past few years in closing the critical gap with scientific knowledge. So we've been partnering with a lot of universities here in the UAE, federal government, local government, to understand what is the extent of our coastal habitats, what is the status, the threats, and more recently we started looking into what is that socioeconomic value. We've done an extensive research on blue carbon accounting, looking at the perception of local communities about the importance of natural capital for them, for their well-being, because similar to France, the UAE is a maritime nation, and a lot of the local stakeholders, when we talk to them, really identify themselves with a healthy ocean. And what we try to unlock, that's kind of the next stage, is how do we bring the local economic model closer to coastal resilience? We have a number of partnerships with local stakeholders, including the Malquane, and that's the idea. How do we bring those coastal mosaics that we find still in some pockets of the UAE with all those beautiful habitats? Mangroves is one of them. Everybody loves mangroves. But we see other types of habitats connected to this. How do we create those hubs? How do we maintain those hubs and restore them and give back to the local economy? So these are some of the angles we're working at the local level. I'll stop here. I can talk also a lot, by the way.
No, that's fine. We spoke about coastal resilience while preparing a little bit our discussion. And as you know, in Nice, there will be the summit of mayors and governors from coastal regions and coastal cities, not only mayors and governors. In some territories it's going to be difficult to have governors or mayors, but bring the territories and I would say not only local governments but local solutions and decision makers to be able to respond to this challenge, which is sea level rise. You spoke about COP28. At COP28 it was the ideal place to see the nexus between ocean, the interlinkage ocean and climate, which is the poles mainly melting, and I know that's not the only reason for the elevation of the sea level rise. So it'll be one of the three UNOC special events. We hope to have 500 representatives of 1 billion inhabitants of the world over, participating in this one-day summit, which will be presided by Christian Estrosi, the mayor of Nice, but also coordinated by the Ocean and Climate Platform. I don't know if you know the Ocean and Climate Platform, but it's a very important NGO which coordinates in France, in Paris, 41 NGOs in the world, and I think WWF is part of this coalition. And they are the ones who are bringing expertise, science, and also working on finance, including development funds to address this issue of sea level rise, but especially coastal resilience. We were talking with the ambassador of Morocco on this issue, and there are maybe, when there's some questions from the floor, Excellency, if you would like to share even personally your kind of insight, because the matter is urgent. We know that in 2050, 1 billion inhabitants in the world will be affected. I don't know if you want to echo that for the situation here about coastal resilience and elevation of the sea level rise here. Who are the actors, the different players, and how seriously is it taken?
So I don't think we are isolated, right? So every nation, every country in the world is bound to see the effect of climate change. In fact, we're already witnessing this. So obviously the UAE is a coastal and maritime nation. There is an increasing realization, right, that we need to do more. There is a lot of action on the ground to restore lost mangroves. There is a lot of action to restore coastal habitats. Specifically for us, Emirates Nature, WWF, we're trying to go also one step before, making sure that we don't lose those natural ecosystems to begin with, because that can be irreplaceable in terms of ecosystem services. And we are actually doing, together with scientific community, we're looking at climate vulnerability. There has been work before by the Environment Agency as well, Abu Dhabi, looking into climate vulnerability of the coastal infrastructure and trying to put a cost to that associated with it, right? We're still yet to kind of quantify that in terms of what does this mean in terms of financial repercussions in this part of the world, but we're also seeing examples elsewhere, right? The risks materializing from the storms, for example, in Florida, different premiums being imposed by insurance for frontline, coastline property, etc. We're not there yet in Asia side of things, but I think we're working very closely again with all stakeholders to raise that awareness, right? So, you know, coastal ecosystems are there for fisheries, are there for recreation and tourism is another important segment for the UAE that is growing quite fast. So how do we bring and stack all of those benefits that coastal ecosystems offer to this part of the world in a way that we can start seeing economic benefits and more will to protect them? That's kind of the next question.
Thank you. We have not spoken about ports, but it gives me the opportunity, since I've spoken about it, to say that we are working on bringing together in Marseille, and this is quite new. I don't know yet the status of this event, but it will happen, and we were discussing with CMA CGM, who's going to speak later on, I think, in the panels. We're going to bring like 50 ports from the world over in an event called Blue Ports and Shippers, to speak about electrification of the ports, to speak about digitalization, of course, and also sharing of data, which is a huge issue. Admiral, which you know very well, the sharing of data, which is something you coming from the Marine in France and being the former chief of the
French Navy.
French Navy for several years till 2020. This sharing of data is a crucial issue because you have the security issues, but you also have the need for science to have more data to be able to explore. So maybe this is the ideal transition now to come back to you, Admiral, and speak about the One Ocean Science Conference, which is going to take place, I said, from the 4th to the 6th of June, we are inviting 2,000 scientists from the world over. So scientists here, if you are interested, this is the time to engage, and especially in the future events and discussions and seminars which are going to happen under the aegis of the Sorbonne University, Abu Dhabi, and the l'Institut de l'Océan. What are the main objectives of the One Ocean Science Congress? You're part of the, like me, of the organizing committee. And what are the topics on the 10 topics that you think are crucial for this territory here in the Middle East? If I may.
Yes. Okay, there will be 2,000 scientists invited, 500 panelists, talking during 100 panels. Why? Why gathering all these people? What will they talk about? What is the general objective? The general objective is announced as science for action. You regretted that there was not enough action in large scale. So this is the idea, science for action. And build or reinforce a dialogue between scientists and policymakers. This is, I think that since COVID, it's a general feeling among the scientists that there is a kind of divorce between science and the general opinion, the public. And for ocean scientists, it is clear that the ocean is changing. You say that it is absorbing carbon dioxide, but while absorbing carbon dioxide, it is changing. It is more acid. And because the temperature is rising, it will absorb less carbon dioxide. So there are many questions that scientists have identified, but do they know how to talk with the policymakers? Do they know how to talk with the public opinion? And this is one of the objectives of this One Ocean Science Congress. It's to build science for action. Science for science is important. You don't invent gravity if you don't make science for science. But today, the situation of the ocean, the situation of the climate, impose action. And so to transform knowledge into action through assessment, discussions with policymakers and so on. So 10 themes have been identified for the One Ocean Science Congress. They shouldn't be a surprise for any of you. First, fisheries, especially illegal, unregulated, unreported fisheries that in some places are a real threat for the sustainability of the fish stocks. The second is the food from the sea and the sustainability of the food, not only fishes. The third theme is deep sea. We all have heard about the projects, industrial projects, about deep sea mining. This is a major concern for biologists, for people who are working on the deep ocean. They know that we don't know almost anything about what's happening in the deep sea, and if we transform this seabed, some people are talking about impact studies, but you cannot make impact studies on something you don't know at all. So the idea is make an assessment on what's happening, what do we know and what don't we know, so can we build a decision, a precaution decision on this topic.
I'll just interrupt you here. Costa Rica and France have led a coalition which is now, I'm speaking under your control, Ambassador, 26 countries now for a moratorium or a precautionary pause before the license is given in Kingston at the International Seabed Authority. So there is a political fight, I would say, non-violent, but to make this position clear. So 26 is not enough. We need more than 30 countries to be able to have a majority in the Council of the International Seabed Authority. But it's fantastic to have, and I'm not speaking in the name of the Secretariat, but as a country, as France, as a member of the Ocean Panel, there is the chief scientist who's Norwegian, who's Peter Hogan, based in Bergen, who has first produced a report in 2020 with a lot of scientists, including scientists you're working with at l'Institut de l'Océan, and then recently has updated that. And really at the UNESCO 2 weeks ago, he was very clear that science, the 350 experts throughout the world, and after 2 years of, more than that, 2020, so 4 years now, of research, have concluded that science is against deep sea mining, and that was very clear. So for us, as you were saying, for us to give more voice to the scientists, and that's what l'Institut de l'Océan is doing, towards the decision makers, for the UN system as well, with the UN chief scientists in the different bodies, including the ISA, but also you spoke about blue food at FAO. We spoke about the maritime transport with the IMO in London, for their scientists to get more involved or more heard. And I think that the work that you are doing, or that the One Ocean Science Congress is going to do, is really to give more power and voice to the scientists on specific topics. But I interrupted you in your description of the other thematics. But
yes,
just
well, some other
science to policy.
Yeah, always difficult.
Yes.
Other themes were protection and restoration of coastal areas, very useful for UAE. Marine genetic resources. As you probably know, there is an international treaty called BBNG, Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction, that address this very specific theme of genetic treasure in the ocean. Who has the property of genetics that can be found in the middle of the Pacific Ocean? Pollution, especially plastic pollution, with a treaty that is under discussion. The next step will be in Busan, in Korea, in late November. Shipping covers around 3% of the CO2 emission today. So there is a large movement for decarbonation of shipping. And and well, and nature-based a solution for climate mitigation. And around all that, well, all the scientists will meet, will assess, will take position, and there is a debate on should we rely on a specific tool, international tool, comparable to IPCC or IPBS. If you read the IPCC reports, you have to wait 2018 before finding, well, there was maybe something in Paris, but the special report of IPCC on ocean dated from 2018. Before that, the role of the ocean in climate mitigation, in absorption of CO2, was dramatically underestimated, dramatically. So the ocean scientists say, okay, if the people of IPCC or IPBS cannot take on their shoulders our assessments and on the ocean, which is the driving machine for the climate, then we need something dedicated to the ocean. And this is the idea of the IPOS, International Panel for Ocean Sustainability. And this could be a tool that will be produced in Nice by the One Ocean Science Congress or the UNOC 3, having a tool dedicated to the ocean assessment, what is the health of the ocean, recommendation, what are the recommendations of the scientists to tackle this or this issue, and propose that to the policymakers.
Thank you very much. I think we'll stay to that major outcome that we are working on. We're working on with Costa Rica. We're working now within the Ocean Panel to promote not only this idea, but three things: the definition of this IPCC for the ocean, which is the IPOS, the financing, because if it works like a permanent secretariat, where it should be hosted. And we have made huge progress in the recent weeks, Ambassador, in Paris with the IOC, the International Oceanographic Commission, including with discussions at the Elysée, but also with different governments, part of the Ocean Panel, to see how can we work to bring this IPOS hosted by the IOC, which is a UN body with 160 countries. So for the time being, it started with France, then it's highly backed and financed by the EU, that's 27 members. Then now the 19 members, we hope, so that if some members are both in the EU and the Ocean Panel, but say more than 40 countries. But then if it's hosted by the IOC in the different meetings that they have from now till June 25, then I would say that c'est gagné, meaning then it'll be the assignment, and which will be difficult for the IOC to have this kind of IPCC for the ocean. But again, the aim is to bring the ocean agenda at par, at the same level of interest by the decision makers, at the same level of financing by the different financiers, private and public, at the same level as climate for the ocean, and that's something which is major. We have not spoken about the BEF, which is the Blue Economy and Finance Forum, but Manon has showed me that I had 5 minutes to conclude before we open up actually to the floor. But maybe in 3 minutes, could you tell us about the Blue Economy and Finance Forum in Monaco, the targets and the method that we are using to mobilize public and private investments for the ocean?
Absolutely. And by way of introduction, I think congratulations to France and Costa Rica for the program that's been pulled together for UNOC, because all these component parts are required. And certainly what we all know and understand is we need that thriving blue economy to sustain a healthy ocean in the future. And in the near term, it needs that funding and financing to get there, as well as the other component parts too. And so the Blue Economy and Finance Forum is really intended to mobilize action, but not just in a year's time, mobilize action now to there. And it's a call to all stakeholders to help catalyse a wave of investment for a sustainable blue economy. So that's bringing together both the public and private sector actors, the multilateral development banks, the development finance institutions in country, the philanthropic and the entrepreneurial side as well. And the goal is to really accelerate a transformative shift in terms of funding and scaling up a portfolio of projects that can be both demonstrated in terms of demonstrating success, but also really scaled up by next year, by the time we get to Monaco, to really have a critical mass of announcements and to serve as a legacy thereon in. The two key pillars of the Blue Economy and Finance Forum are to, first of all, accelerate solutions and projects through this mobilization approach, which France have really spearheaded in terms of forming key groups and coalitions to do so. And secondly is to really catalyze innovation, including through kind of new financial mechanisms to make a change that we all know we need. That could be through new insurance markets in this sector, through blue bonds, through guarantees, or new sector breakthroughs as well, and shipping is certainly a key area as well. And across this, there's a real key focus on ensuring we're getting the financing package right, in particular for the small island developing states and those communities that are most vulnerable and most in need of that coastal resilience. Last key point is there are three priority kind of thematics or levers to do this. The first is investing in ocean resilience. The second is in financing the blue economy. And thirdly, it's innovating through ocean governance and finance. The latter really recognizing in parallel to getting that shift in economic incentives and the finance, we really need to work to build that facilitative enabling environment for these activities as well.
Absolutely, and that will be also, when you say facilitating the environment, it's the responsibility of the governments, of the countries. And that's the reason why, if we have 18 countries who are supporting the outcomes of the BEF, being part of the process and mobilizing, of course, other countries, not only the private and public funds, but then that would also help to have these countries incentivate the investment or the private equity, which is going towards projects. So to be very concrete, there are three baskets of projects: 1 million, 10 million, 100 million of euros. There is a steering committee presided by Pascal Lamy and the ambassador Ilana Said from the mission of Palau in the UN, at the UN. A team of experts from the UN, but also development banks like the World Bank. We have put around the table, by the way, all the development banks, but also UNCTAD in Geneva, the UNGC in New York, which is mobilizing the private sector. And there is also coalitions that we are gathering, because we know that's not the center where things happen, it's in the periphery and it's in the coalitions. So there's this coalition that CMA-CGM is coordinating under the control, which is called New Energies, which is working on new energies. And there's another coalition on maritime decarbonization, of course. There's a coalition on ocean resilience, as you said. There's a coalition on startups that we're mobilizing, 1,000 startups for the ocean, French, but not only, and this is under the aegis of the World Economic Forum. So, and very concretely, I know that this is not the Secretariat which is saying, but as France, and as one of the co-hosts, our ambition is to mobilize private and public funds to 100 billion. And again, to do this at par with the climate system. It's not a new fund at all of 100 billion. It's mobilizing 100 billion of dollars to be announced, not from one country, but from all these different stakeholders and these coalitions. But if you just take the maritime transport, if you look at the figures, these are huge figures and big money we are talking about. And that's a way also to incentivate other countries, other stakeholders to be part of this journey, as you said, Ambassador, towards UNOC in Nice. So I think it's time now to address questions from the floor to each of us. I think you have to...
Could I add a couple of points here on the finance, if you allow me? Sorry to the
Yes,
moderator.
please.
Just to add that, of course, this is great to see a lot of efforts and concerted efforts to mobilize finance for oceans. What I would add, though, is that we really need a definition, and I think maybe the scientific community would like what I'm saying. And why this is important, because if we just look at blue economy growth, that can also finance activities that might actually have detrimental impact to the ocean. So having that definition is quite important, and I will reference perhaps the work that WWF with WRI, EU Commission, and a number of other partners have done, which is about the sustainable economy principles to define a framework, and then subsequently there's a series of guidance for sectors in the ocean economy that aims to help, if you like, investors identifying what's sustainable and what's not. So I think this is fundamental principle to start with. The second point, just because you asked also about the region and what would be interesting to bring forward, is what we spoke earlier, Ashok, about Islamic finance. So this is a size of a finance economy that is hugely untapped, is huge in the Asia Pacific, including in this market. We've seen a lot of sustainable financial transactions on climate change, for example, but if they're not structured in a way that they're compatible with Islamic capital, then all of the Islamic investors cannot necessarily participate. What we're really excited as WWF is that the Islamic finance principles are actually value principles. So it's not only about financial returns, but by default, by its DNA, it requires a positive impact back to the society. So we believe that there's a lot of synergies, if you like, with nature, ocean, sustainable economy with the Islamic finance. And in COP28, we partnered and we launched a program which includes actually commercial banks that they're very present in the region, and other UAE institutions to explore how do we structure a blended finance mechanism that is essentially compatible with the Islamic principles. And us as WWF, we want to bring those stakeholders and look at bringing a pipeline of projects that they follow these principles. And the scope is in Asia Pacific. It's a south-to-south type of initiative we want to bring forward. So it would be very useful to see how do we potentially bring that at the third edition of UNOC in Nice.
You're hired.
Thank you. I'm planning to go to Nice. That's why I'm selling this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Marina. So let us open the floor. I will have 1 minute of wrap-up to do. So if we take 3 questions, real questions, otherwise we can have interactions after the panels, if I may. So real questions, and I don't know if there's microphones which are circulating, or I'll just give my own. Ambassador from Morocco, Excellency, the first row, and then there's. Wait, first to the ambassador here, who raised his hand first, then behind Madame, and then there's one there. So we'll just take these 3.
Thank you so much. First of all, for inviting me to this very important conference. I was not going to intervene, but you mentioned my name and our preliminary discussion for this conference. So I decided just to share my opinion. Yes, I acknowledge that coastal regions in most countries of the world are economic hubs. The protection of these regions is indeed a part of preserving the acquis of the world economy. The economic opportunities that oceans are offering, like food security, transportation, shipments, tourism, industry, logistics, are threatened with mainly the pollution and the rising of the level of water in oceans. Our preoccupation with regard to these threats that the oceans are facing is part of our responsibility to preserve nature and to diminish climate change. The whole world is committed to that. I'm not in need to remind all the initiatives, mainly COP28 here in Dubai. At my humble level, I see that one of the most efficient ways is to develop an innovative culture of consuming, or rather of living, so that we can preserve these acquis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Points well taken about the change of mode of consumption. Madame, just behind, and Monsieur, over here afterwards.
Hello, I'm Elena Berezneva from Water Today in Dubai. I want to ask about salinity, increasing salinity of the oceans, because we're talking about raising of climate temperatures. We're talking about many issues, but of course I'm not doubting that desalination is a very important process for people to have pure water. But will there be regulations from stopping brine to go back to the Gulf or any place in the world and in the ocean? Thank you.
Admiral, perhaps, and then Maria.
Yeah, this is one of the projects that we are working on. We would like to develop here in Suad about the impact of desalination systems. On one hand, people need fresh water. And on the other hand, you want to measure the impacts on biodiversity and select, probably, if possible, the technologies that have the smallest impact. So we are working on this topic, and it will be presented in a few minutes.
Maria, just one word.
I mean, I'm not the regulator, so I cannot foresee what the regulations would be. Definitely it's an issue, and especially cumulative impacts of this desalination plants, right, across the region. But I would say that's also where the sustainable finance and blue economy principles is important, because it can catalyze and change the mindset of the industry that operates desalination plants into transitioning and piloting new technologies or transitioning the technologies, right, to alleviate that impact in the future. So that's the only thing I would add. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Monsieur, the last
thank
question.
you. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
My name is Sal Jafar. I'm the CEO of ESGMina.com. My question, thanks to Marina for bringing, what about the mechanism to attract basically private companies to include and invest in that aspect, especially in this part of the world? Thank you very much. The mechanism to attract private companies to invest in the green finance mechanism. Thank you.
The billion-dollar question. So I think traditionally, of course,
100 billion, I said.
100 billion. Trillion. Okay, so that requires a lot of discussion, but again, traditionally we're seeing CSR funding or philanthropic funding coming to, for example, conserving, protecting ecosystems, and obviously public expenditure towards that. We all recognize that's not enough. We are exploring, to your point, with our partners to see what could those mechanisms be. How would funding be aggregated, philanthropic, patient capital, investor capital a little bit later perhaps, because it does take time to set up projects that can be attracting in traditional investors, if at all. But we also need to make sure that the funding is disseminated to the right folks as well on the ground, right? The local communities, the local governments. So it's quite a complex structure that needs to be put in place. But there's a lot of opportunities, right? We're looking at carbon, potentially one price that can drive private capital into it. Ecotourism is another one that there's a lot of industry here that is interested to reinvest back into the natural capital, and so on. So yes, it's the important question. So that's one of the things we want to address as well.
Thank you. On doit rendre l'antenne. C'est comme à la radio. So thank you very much. I'll just say one last thing, which is on the bridge between what we have discussed. That means the UNOC special events, science, finance, ocean resilience, and the conference itself. But you have to invite me again then to discuss about the conference. But just in one word, we have created bridges. We have created an architecture which would take forward from these three special events inside the conference, and those are the ocean action panels, which are discussed at a country level with the delegations in New York. We don't have the time to go through the 10 ocean action panels, but each of these three topics, science, finance, and ocean resilience, would have an ocean action panel within the conference. That means it's in the report of the conference, and that means it's part of the conference and part of the Nice Ocean Agreement. The ambition for the President of France, but also for Costa Rica, is to do in Nice what we did, the world together, in Paris with the Paris Agreement, and that's the level of ambition, and it won't happen without the commitment and the engagement of all the stakeholders. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Sorry, I have a small intervention. Sorry.
I can't see you.
Sorry for here. Sorry.
Okay.
So I know that this topic is mainly about oceans, and I believe that we forgot a big community that is a big part of the ocean topic, which is the small island developing states. And they are home to more than 20% of the world's biodiversity and more than 40% of the world's coral reefs. And they are the ones that are most vulnerable to ocean-related catastrophes and phenomena. And I thought about giving them, I would say, maybe a spotlight, especially in this very important topic. And
Thank
also
you.
to
Thank
mention...
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. We have to close really. It's like at the television. Our time is gone, including mine. Just to say that if the Ambassador Olivier Poivre d'Arvor is not here, it's because he is at the SIDS conference, Small Island Development States conference of the UN, and the small island development states are really a priority for us. And you'll see that in the conference. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, thank you so much. I'm delighted to speak to you today on behalf of the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi. We're excited about the 2025 UN Ocean Conference, co-organized by France and Costa Rica. Today's gathering is a key opportunity for public and private actors, researchers, and industry leaders to align ourselves around ocean research, ecosystem conservation, and vibrant blue economy. The UN Ocean Conference aligns with our vision of sustainable ocean resource use and marine biodiversity protection. In Abu Dhabi, our waters are home to the Indian Ocean humpback dolphin, nesting sea turtles, extensive seagrass beds and coral reef, and my personal iconic dugong. We have an ancient and rich marine and coastal heritage. It is no surprise then that we, in the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi, are strongly aligned with Sustainable Development Goal number 14 and the UN Ocean Conference themes of sustainable fisheries, marine biodiversity, habitat protection, and resilience of coastal cities against climate threats. Our approach to blue economy includes sustainable practices that ensures marine ecosystem health. We are implementing marine management strategies that supports both economic and environmental resilience, especially in our fisheries and coastal cities. Our marine conservation efforts includes marine protected areas, scientific research, and policy framework. These are not just mandates, they are a moral obligation to everyone. We celebrate the launch of the new Ocean Institute at Sorbonne University, Abu Dhabi, a valuable partner and founding member of EAD's Abu Dhabi Environment Research Network, ADERN. This institute is a beacon of marine research and education in our region. It factors a deeper understanding of marine science and integrates it into sustainable economic practices. Just 6 months ago, the UAE hosted the UNFCCC COP28, and we look forward to the significant contribution ocean research can make to achieving the climate goals, such as understanding carbon sequestration, which the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi owns. Abu Dhabi Environmental Data Initiative, AGIDI, has already undertaken groundbreaking studies on local blue carbon, but there is more to do. Climate modeling and prediction. Ocean data improves climate models essential for predicting future climate conditions and informing global climate policies. Informing policy, international collaboration, research guides, international marine policies, promoting sustainability and reducing environmental impacts. Recognizing marine science role in addressing climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution, EAD commissioned J1, an advanced ocean-going marine science research vessel, which I believe the team and the group have visited today. We look forward to using J1 in joint research with the Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi Ocean Institute and other members of ADERN. In conclusion, today's gathering is a call to action to embrace collaboration, championed by France and Costa Rica together through initiative like the Sorbonne University of Abu Dhabi Ocean Institute. We can advance our knowledge, enhance our policies, and ensure sustainable management of our ocean resources. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you, and let's support all this initiative together. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. For the next keynote, please join me in welcoming Mrs. Hiba Ubaid Mohammed Darawish Al-Shahir, Director of Biodiversity Department at the United Arab Emirates Ministry of Climate Change and Environment, for her keynote.
Thank you. It is bright in here. Thank you very much. It is an honor and a pleasure for me to be here. I would like to thank Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi for hosting this conference and for everyone in here. Your presence shows your commitment to the protection of marine environment, which is a key element of climate action. Marine ecosystems are an essential part of our environment, and it plays a crucial role in supporting diversity of plant and animal species. The oceans and seas are critical to our health and the health of our planet, and support and prosperity of our communities. Marine life has been a key component of the UAE economic and social and environmental development. It is a source of life and livelihood, giving a rise for our industries. Our seas also support recreation, tourism, trade, commerce, and are the main source of desalinated water that we are drinking here. Fishing in the UAE also is not merely an economic activity. For the people of the UAE, fishing is a legacy passed down through generations. It is a legacy that needs to be preserved for the future generations as well. We have made significant strides in enriching the fishing industry, making it sustainable and protecting it with the help of appropriate legal frameworks. Our sustainable fisheries management combines regulatory measures with also the initiatives of rehabilitating coral reefs and installation of artificial reefs to provide sheltered areas for these many marine species. I am proud to share with you some stories of success from the UAE. In the past several years, in the past specifically 5 years, we have planted more than 550,000 fragments of corals successfully. We have also planted more than 4,300 artificial reefs over the past 10 years. Developing and thriving aquaculture industry is also a priority for the UAE, with an annual production growing steadily that reached to 3,500 tons by farming a variety of species in different production systems. We see the fisheries production growing further. This boosts our food security as well as reduces pressures on natural fisheries. We are currently focusing on developing and updating our legislations, our guidelines, and plans to create environment conducive and investments that are sustainable for the UAE, especially in the aquaculture sector. I would like to take this opportunity to also highlight the upcoming aquaculture toolkit, which we are developing in cooperation with the Food and Agriculture Organization to support aquaculture here in the UAE. Your Excellencies and dear guests, the current climate challenges, however, poses a grave danger to all kinds of wildlife, including marine life. The UAE is well aware of it and well aware of the critical importance of the marine environment, and we are fully committed to its preservation. We are committed to promoting the sustainability of our natural environment and our journey toward a climate-neutral future. The UAE ambitious Net Zero 2050 strategic initiative endorses the importance of nature-based solutions to combat climate change. The UAE pledged to plant 100 million mangroves by 2030 as a step towards that direction and will go a long way in creating a cleaner and greener environment. Such initiatives are not limited to the UAE, but will have very positive global impact. The Global Mangrove Alliance for Climate, for instance, seeks to accelerate the conservation and restoration plantation efforts of mangroves ecosystem, not just within the country, but all across the world. Our commitment to preserving marine biodiversity is evident in our achievement related to protected and reserved areas. As of today, we have 16 protected areas that covers 12% of our marine coastal zones, which places us at the top of the Environmental Performance Index. Our marine protected areas have received international recognition with several ecological and biological significant marine areas, wetlands of international importance, and UNESCO managed biosphere. We firmly believe that our actions today will shape the world we have behind for future generations. We are committed to exploring every pathway to ensure a greener future. This conference today is an important reminder of the centrality of marine ecosystems in our country's march towards sustainability. It endorses the need for global players to act collectively in protecting, restoring, and enhancing natural ecosystems. I would like to thank France and Costa Rica for co-organizing this conference within the framework of the 2025 UN Ocean Conference. And I look forward to your informed opinions and very exciting conference ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Hiba. Dear guests, before we continue with our program toward ocean science, ocean and maritime industry actors, we invite you now to the actual quick coffee break. Next panel, we are delighted to host an array of world-renowned researchers from the Ocean Institute. For that, I would like to call on stage Admiral Christophe Prazuc, Director of the Ocean Institute and former Chief of the French Navy, who will be moderating the session, Professor Tariq Meziane, Director of Borea Research Lab at the National Museum of Natural History, Professor Jean-Luc Young, Director of Dinar Marine Station from the National Museum of Natural History, who will be joining us online from Dinar. You can take your seats. Professor Olivier Adam, bioacoustician, specialist of cetaceans and full professor at Sorbonne University. Hervé Claustre, CNRS Research Director at Sorbonne University's Marine Station of Villefranche-sur-Mer. And finally, Dr. Beatrice Garcia, Associate Professor of Law at Sorbonne University, Abu Dhabi. Thank you.
Well, now I'm not the invisible man because I'm speaking as director of the Ocean Institute. As you noticed, I'm not a scientist. I'm an ocean practitioner. I've been in the Navy for 40 years. And now I'm directing the Ocean Institute of Sorbonne University, gathering 30 research labs, 1,500 professors and engineers, technicians. This is the largest European university in marine sciences and humanities. Here in Abu Dhabi, under the presidency of Her Excellency Rim Al-Hashimi, the Board of Trustees of Sorbonne Abu Dhabi has decided to create an Ocean Institute in Abu Dhabi, the Emirati sibling of the Ocean Institute I manage in France. The birth of this institute has been announced during COP28 in Dubai by Professor and SWAD Vice Chancellor Nathalie Braz. What will it look like? What will be its goals and ambitions? Let's start from the end. What will this Emirian Institute will look like in 5 to 10 years? In 2030, it will be a research center with half a dozen research teams working on different aspects of SDG 14, the Sustainable Development Goals 14, like ocean health, sustainable ocean resources, nature-based solutions, plastic pollution, sea level rise. The center will mix Emirati and foreign researchers and engineers. The center will have local partners, government agencies, university, fishermen, divers, citizens. The center will keep close links with Sorbonne University in Paris, its research lab, and its 5 marine stations, operating the most advanced monitoring techniques. The center will develop a world-class expertise in the Middle East, an ocean region severely challenged by the climate change. The center will contribute to science-based public policies concerning ocean conservation and restoration. 2, after the research, this Ocean Institute will also be a center for education in marine sciences, primarily oriented towards marine life. A bachelor program will prepare Emirati students to postgraduate studies or professional opportunities in the maritime sector. The center will also deliver summer schools to the benefit of national and international students, as well as executive education on specific subjects like plastic pollution, underwater noise, marine protected areas management. Third point, alumni from SWAD Ocean Institute will start filling the positions in research teams, in the management of MPAs. They will be skillful in ocean literacy and excellent advocates of the ocean in the Emirati society. So this is what the Ocean Institute will be in 10 years. What is our course of action in order to reach these ambitious goals? It has 3 steps. Step 1, our guideline is usefulness. The Ocean Institute must be useful to the UAE. This is the reason why we started with the needs, the challenges, the concerns, the priority of Abu Dhabi when it comes to ocean sciences. Our first step was to consult with many key entities such as the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi to tackle the environmental gaps and needs. Then, we have been looking within Sorbonne teams. Who were the most talented experts able to deal with some of the questions identified by the Emirati authorities? You will hear 5 of them in a few minutes. Step 2, having identified important local issues and the corresponding scientists able to tackle this question, we are starting a series of dialogues, a scientific dialogue with potential partners. How can we bring new capacities? How can the experience of our teams bring some added value? We do not want to duplicate. Second axis, and second dialogue, and operational dialogue with governmental agencies. Oceanography is not like AI. You cannot stay in your office struggling with your computer. You have to go at sea. You have to observe. You have to sample. You need boats, nets, buoys, gliders, and agreements in order to operate in key areas such as marine protected areas, ports, mangroves, etc. The third dialogue we are starting is a funding dialogue with local companies eager to contribute to a strategic goal of understanding, protecting, restoring ocean, marine life, and resources. The third step, when with dialogues will be mature, we will build. As soon as our research and education projects will be adequately refined, thanks to our partners, we will build labs, classrooms, databases, sensors, sample collections, campaigns at land and sea. We will recruit researchers, experts, practitioners, students. At this time, Sorbonne Suad Ocean Institute will be an operational tool, useful for research and education, tailored for the real-life needs of Abu Dhabi. But for the time being, I go back to square one, and I will have the pleasure to introduce our high-level researchers who will briefly describe their field of research and how their expertise and that of other researchers and partners could benefit the Emirati waters and coast. And I will start to call Tariq Meziane. Donc il faut appuyer. Voilà. Ah non, sur celui-là. Voilà. Non, celui-là.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about mangroves forest, mangrove tree also, which is a valuable ecosystem that needs care and protection. Maybe it's not obvious for everyone, but mangrove forest is considered to be a marine ecosystem, and therefore I'll show you how and why so. Ask me before to start to talk about that, to introduce myself, and that's what I'm trying to do. After I graduated at Sorbonne University as a young student and university of friend with my PhD, already working with wetlands, that was in salt marshes in Mont Saint-Michel Bay. I joined the Japanese GSPS fellowship at the University of Ryukyu in Japan, where I spent 4 beautiful years. And after that, I went to Australia. I was awarded the Queen Elizabeth II Fellowship. And before I ended my contract, I was recruited and hired by the National Museum, where I started to be a team leader in working in organic matter and food web of organisms in marine ecosystems, specifically in marine ecosystems, coastal marine ecosystems. And since 2019, I have been named director of Borea Laboratories, which is a 94 permanent position laboratories working on marine and organism habitats. Accessorily, since 2001, I'm in charge of the National 23 France 23 program of ocean and climate with the Agence Nationale de la Recherche, ANR. What about the mangroves? Mangroves, as I say, are forests, but very specific forests that have their roots on the seawater, with salty water. And there is a condition for this forest to grow. And the main condition here is the average temperature of the water where they live. And that's why you can see that most of the mangroves, they live between the isotherm, the intertropical areas between the isotherm 20 degrees north and south, all around the ocean coast. There's some exceptions. Just look, for example, in South America in front of Peru. They are supposed to be there, but there is cold water coming with the upwellings, and that's impedes the mangroves to grow because it's too cold. And there's also different, the reverse side in Florida, it was not supposed to have, of course, mangroves, but because there's the Gulf Stream, and the Gulf Stream is hot water which is going to the north, and that's why allow the mangrove to grow. So what is this forest? Typically, what you can see here, beautiful rhizophora species in New Caledonia here. That's the form that everyone knows more or less. It can be even bigger with this forest in Venezuela, more than 30 meters high. It can be a very shorty tree. By the way, in French, we don't call it mangrove, we call it palétuvier. I wish in English we had this differentiation between the forest and the tree. So this palétuvier, this tree is very small. This is a normal size of a genus called Cereops. And it can be also a palm, which is something we can see in Bengal Gulf and in the Indochina region, where this, for example, this palm is Nipa fruticans, which is very, of course it's not a palétuvier, but it has the same characteristic. And what are these characteristics, in fact? And then, of course, mangrove is not only a small piece of tree, it's most of the time it can be huge, as you can see. This is in French Guiana, and you see here, I don't know, is this red light doesn't show? I think it's too small. But you can see that, for example, the space where these mangroves are growing, most of the time they tend to grow when the sediment conditions are made available, and that's the case here. Okay, c'est rouge. I think it's too small. Too small. Yeah, that's fine. It's okay. So, what are these characteristics about mangroves like I was talking about? One of them is, of course, the flowering. They have a very nice flowers, and these flowers, by the way, is something that we can expertise the name of the species. And by the way, yesterday I had this chance, the great opportunity to visit the mangrove parks here in Abu Dhabi, and I was surprised to see that I came in the flowering time. So I advise you to take advantage of this peaking time of flowering the mangrove. There are 100,000 of flowers all over in the trees. You won't see this all the time of the year, so it's maybe the really time to go see mangroves in Abu Dhabi. And this flower, of course, they grow on the tree after fecundation, and they make this small propagule. Was too quick. These propagules, they are almost ready to grow, and then they get heavy, and after getting heavy, they tend to fall. And if they fall in the low tide, when the water is receding, not there, they tend to just go under the roots of the main tree. And fortunately, most of them, if not all of them, will not survive because a big one is just there making the shadow on them. But if they come and fall during high tide, in that case, they have a buoyancy, they float, and they can be taken away from the coast part where they used to be growing, and then they grow somewhere else. And different with the species, the buoyancy, characteristic, they may go very, very far. The other characteristic is to, of course, protect themselves against the salinity. We are talking about seawater. So they have, without getting in details, they can exclude the salinity, not let it in. For example, for the leaves, they can take it secreted, or they simply accumulate it in small nodules and keep them that way. In fact, if you go to the mangroves, pay attention, look on the leaves, you can put your finger on it, and then you can see that there is salt, okay? So yeah, go visit, because really the flowers are beautiful. I insist on that. I was very much pleased to see that. Roots are serious business also for mangroves. That's one of their characteristics. They have this aerial roots. It's not deep. Any tree of mangrove tree is not very deep on the soil, which is, by the way, is something that is quickly, how to say, taken away. For example, if there is a typhoon or something like that, it's not very, very resistant. They take the shock, they can protect somehow, but not themselves. So they have this, for example, this Avicennia, and the roots also is something that you can use to name the species. And you can see, for example, on the left side, the Avicennia, and that's the main species here, which is in the EIU, Avicennia marina. Colors can differ sometimes, some genetical difference, but that's the main species here, and it's the main species in the world, by the way. Very resistant. And on the right side, you have another species, which is Bruguera, and you can see the roots are different. It can be this rhizophora with this echas roots, which are quite different, and these roots are very interesting because they have some bacterial community that live on the roots, and they make them, they can take the oxygen, because why? They are living in a place when there is no oxygen in the sediments. So most of the time, the sediments are very reduced, and therefore, that roots, the aerial roots, allow them to take oxygen. It can be as big as this. If you have a human being here, he won't get to the top of that roots. Some trees are really, really big, and a lot of food. And imagine all the sediments and all the organic matter that can be accumulating there. But that's in low tide. In high tide, it's another story. We have seawater coming, oceans, and then you have the fish. They love to come there because it's a protection place for the smaller against the bigger, but it's also a food place to eat. And different kind of food are available, and including the organic matter, the detritus that were accumulated from the leaves and trees, the leaves and the roots of the trees. So fish also in low tide, they can climb in the tree. Birds, of course, and animals of everything, invertebrates and mussels and so on. This was also a kingdom for the crabs, so many of them, so different, so huge biodiversity. And I want to emphasize that that's the main important things about mangroves. Of course, it's economical value, socio-economical value, but it's before everything a spot of biodiversity that only for that needs to be protected. Science is this, that's what I do with my colleagues most of the time. We try to understand all the fluxes that are involved in all these ecosystems. On the right side, you have a forest that is pristine, clean, and on the left side, the mangrove that is eutrophied, impacted by human being. And the things are not getting the same. We know that, for example, that carbon is sequestrated theoretically by mangroves when everything goes well. But there is, in theory also, that when there is too much labile matter organic from eutrophied water and human activity, this labile organic matter, which is quickly degradable, it can impact the carbon sequestrated and release it fully, and again, it goes against the natural things of carbon sequestration. Saying that there is in the world some mangroves that do not sequestrate at all, naturally. So why it's important for that? Because mangroves, as you can see, compared to other forests in the world, and it's something we know since quite many years, mangroves are a huge sink of carbon. We call it blue because it's oceanic, it's marine carbon, and you can see it's mainly on the soil. This gray part, it's mainly in the soil, below 30 centimeters. There is no other forest in the world that is able to do what mangroves do, which is well sequestrating carbon. Of course, the surface mangrove is very small, comparatively comparing the mangrove trees surface with tropical uplands or temperate, boreal, even more tropical mangroves, tropical forest. We are not talking about the same amount, but the efficiency is really high, 10 times than any other forest in terms of carbon sequestration. And human beings were living peacefully with this habitat since history started, and they were here before the dinosaur, by the way, these mangroves. But, things are changing a lot. We are getting more and more, many people on this earth, and from plastic to urbanization, aquaculture, that is well, I have nothing against aquaculture, but when it's done in mangroves, unfortunately, it's not a sustainable way of making economic development. Recently, last week only, the UCN mangrove system which I belong, we have reached this conclusion. It was published just last week by UCN, that more than 50% of all mangroves are in risk of collapsing by 2015. So there is a lot of things to do, and I'm afraid that we cannot really count on mangroves that we take their load of this 35% carbon sinking in the world as an ocean contribution. And of course, there are other things we can do about, but definitely I agree with the person talked earlier. It's better to conserve the old mangrove, and also we can do some remediation and planting mangroves, and there's a lot of science again to improve and implement this kind of policies. Thank you very much. This is a mangrove from New Caledonia.
Thank you very much, Tarek, and for this overview on mangroves. And now we'll try to link with Jean-Luc. Jean-Luc, could you appear? Jean-Luc is in France and is... Okay. Okay, Jean-Luc is coming. He will talk to us about environmental DNA and how you can use DNA techniques in order to assess the biodiversity and the evolution of biodiversity and the gradient of biodiversity between harbors, for example, and marine protected areas. Allô Jean-Luc, tu m'entends?
Hello, I hope that you hear me, that you see me, and maybe that you see my presentation. I don't hear you, but I can read the message from Manon. Is it okay, Manon? Can I go?
The sound is not very good. The sound. Hello.
Manon, if you send me a message telling me that everything is okay, then I start. Otherwise, I wait, as you want. I use it. Oh. Is it better?
Okay.
Like this?
Better.
Okay, then I start. Perfect. So sorry for this all this technical problem. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizer for inviting me to this conference and allowing me to present some of the project I've been working on in the last years and how they might be applied here in the United Arab Emirates. I would also like to offer my sincere apologies for not being able to be with you today due to a last-minute problem, and I hope that the video presentation will nevertheless be clear and pleasant to follow. So my name is Jean-Luc Young, and I'm a professor at the French National Museum of Natural History. I'm also in charge of the Dinard Marine Station, which is one of the two marine stations of the museum in France. And these two animation here, these two small animation, make a good summary of my scientific interest. Okay, so I am studying the diversity of marine mobile fauna using molecular approach, and I try to decipher the intraspecific complexity of marine mammal species by studying genetic diversity, the link between genetic diversity and social group organization, case of gene culture coevolutions. That's one of my main interests, and the other one is using molecular tools to study marine species and to identify marine species, in particular using eDNA. So how did I came to use eDNA? One of the problem with studying DNA when you need is that you need biological samples, and when you study species like marine mammals, protected species, and difficult to sample, it's really problematic. That's why very early in my work I try to use so I try to use spontaneously released skin pieces, non-invasive sampling, and for instance, spontaneously released skin pieces like here from humpback whales. This is in Madagascar with the association Setamada. This is in Mauritius Island from spare whales. You see here small pieces of skin that you can take if you are close enough from the sperm whales. And we can also define new protocols using, for instance, swabs, like here to study. This is in the west of France, in a marine protected area, to study bottlenose dolphin. We use swabs to collect some cells. So that's how we came to using eDNA, because it's like an ultimate non-invasive sampling. What is eDNA? The principle is relatively simple. All organisms living in the ocean release spontaneously DNA with a trace of a fragment of of skin, of feces, of urine, saliva, from wound. The idea is to look for this trace of DNA in the seawater, which is more the trace of DNA which are more or less degraded, and then through a succession of, so we sample water to have this DNA, and through a succession of lab and bioinformatic protocols, quite complicated, but we can summarize then the name of metabarcoding. Then the idea is to obtain a list of taxons. So there is a step where we must transform the sequence of DNA that we obtained to a species, and that's what we call taxonomic assignment, which is a quite complicated step. I'll show you. Why using eDNA? Well, it's first to establish list of taxons, so we can monitor and survey biodiversity. We can compare between different ecosystems, compare different sites with different level of protection. We can compare sites with different anthropogenic use, and we can make comparison over the time. This gives us the knowledge of biodiversity in different ecosystems. We can calculate ecological indices like taxonomy, which explain if one or another place is more rich in terms of number of species present, for instance. We can calculate the difference in taxonomic richness. We can evaluate impact of human activity and monitor and evaluate effectiveness of environmental policies. This is what we wait from this eDNA analysis. A very important parameter is the choice of the site when you sample. In marine and coastal ecosystems, you can find specific ecosystems like coral reef, mangroves, seagrasses. You can also have places that are strongly impacted by human activities like harbor or coastal cities, desalination plants, for instance. And you can also find a marine protected area, and all this along the same coastal system. Then we have to choose the sites to make the natural inventories, which has interest in in each of these cases, and so to monitor biodiversity and evaluate the human impacts. I show you here some very short summaries and example of compounds that made in the last years. We first targeted marine protected area here in the French West Indies, where there is an Agoa Sanctuary, which is a very large marine protected area dedicated to marine mammals. And we sampled along the coast of Guadeloupe species of mammals using eDNA. It's more than 60 species of fish. Around the coast of Martinique, which is there, we found ray, more than 100 species of fish, etc. We highlight very specific places, very specific sites for Elasmobranche, for instance, and so on. In France, we use the eDNA to study mammals in the Parc Naturel Marin d'Ivoire, which is the same marine protected area where we use the swabs to study the dolphin. And presently we are studying, we are highly interested in marine wind farms and their impact on the natural environment, and we are making a long-term study along a marine farm in the west of France. We learn different things from all this campaign, a lot of things. The fact that the step of sampling must be very, very controlled, and we use, for this, we use filtering pump, and we filter seawater either on the sea surface or either under the surface with the scientific divers. And we have a very standardized and specific protocols. Then the lab and bioinformatic protocols have to be very specific, and we have to use dedicated laboratory to avoid false positive and false negative. False positive are when you find a species, an animal that is not here, so it's a contamination from another experiment, for instance. And false negative is when there is a fish and you don't identify it. The last step of taxonomic assignation requires a reference database. That is, this reference database means that you collect this time fish. You need taxonomics. You need specialists in the taxonomic group. You need specialists that can recognize and sample, for instance, the fish, and then you must determine the DNA sequence that we will study in these protocols. This is a very complicated step also. And here I present you Rachel Adderley, who is a PhD student, and work during his PhD is on the study of marine fauna through the study of eDNA, and presently she works on the taxonomic assignment step, and she produced these protocols that we can relatively generally apply to vertebrates. So this protocol is based on molecular similarity, plausible geographic distribution, and the taxonomic panel taking into account possible gap in the reference databases. So I'll show you another example of the work of Rachel, very recent. I use also this opportunity to show you the building of the Station Marine of the MNHN in Dinard. We are here in the northwest of France, and the Station Marine of Dinard is just located near a river which is called the Rance, and which has a specific human which hosts a very specific human activity, which is a long dam forming a tidal power plant. And this power plant produces marine renewable energy corresponding to the demand of a large city of more than 200,000 inhabitants. The question of the impact of this power plant on the biodiversity of the river is a main question. We conducted a study using eDNA. We sampled 5 places from the marine to the freshwater part. We did the meta-barcoding analysis and targeting all the vertebrates and the taxonomic assignation. We identified more than 120 taxa, including mammal, fish, birds, and amphibians. And the main results is that the ecological index show that the difference in biodiversity from one side to another is linked to the distance between the station, and that the dam, we did not detect marked disruption in terms of species distribution caused by the dam. So that's the kind of result that we can ask and that we can write from eDNA monitoring and survey. Okay, let's come back to the marine and coastal biodiversity of the United Arab Emirates.
Jean-Luc, c'est Christophe. Il faut vraiment que tu conclues. Parce qu'on est en train de...
d'accord. J'ai dépassé le temps.
Oui.
Sorry to be longer. So what we propose, we think that we could apply this campaign of eDNA sampling and analysis in the United Arab Emirates and targeted to chosen area and conducted over successive years, and also to contribute to construct reference database, and that citizen science could be involved. I think that there is a long history and tradition of citizen science in the Emirates. So I'm really sorry to have been so long. I had to present you several slides of my colleague Eric Thébault from Sorbonne University, who is also using eDNA. You see, I have let these molecules and these small molecules. And Eric is working more on microorganisms, on benthic microorganisms, and on plankton. And he can make samples and also use eDNA to make surveys. And he is highly interested in desalination plants, and he proposed to conduct campaigns to study the impact possible of desalination plants. Okay, so sorry to have been so long, and many thanks for listening to me.
Well, thank you, Jean-Luc.
Welcome.
Thank you, Jean-Luc, for practicing this very complicated exercise to talk from Brittany on a very complex subject like eDNA. And now Olivier Adam will talk on a more simple subject, maybe? Marine mammals.
I don't know. Maybe, who knows. Thank you. Thank you for the organization. Thank you for the invitation. My name is Olivier Adam. I would like to speak today about cetacean species. First, some few words about me to introduce myself. I'm professor at Sorbonne University at D'Alembert Institute. This lab, it's a lab with the topics, it's acoustics and mechanical vibrations. And I'm specialized on, I'm expert on signal processing, bioacoustics, and machine learning. And so I'm very interested about the sound emitted by cetacean species. And I try to, I develop innovative tools and methods to study their sound. For example, today I'm involved in 4 different projects. And for example, for the relationship, we study the relationship between mother and calf in Ampac well, for example. And for this specific project, we used an electronic tags we deployed directly on the back of the well. And these electronic tags have a video cam in it, hydrophone, different sensors like for the pressure, for the temperature, 3D accelerometers. And so at the end, we can collect a lot of different data sets, and we can have information about their activities during several hours. And so, for example, we use this information to analyze the the suckling activity of the calf, for example, and we published last January a very nice paper about how many times the calf is going to take some milk from the mother. And the result was kind of surprising because he will access to the milk one time every 2 hours in a very short period of time, like 2 minutes for the suckling. I do this project with the Malagasy NGO Setamada and my colleagues from the Neuropsy Institute. And I mean, it's a very collaborative project, and obviously with Jean-Luc Jung, who do some genetic analysis from this whale population. Another example, if you want, for the study about dolphins, we developed an innovative tool based on 360 video cam and 4 synchronous hydrophones. And the idea is to do the link between behaviors and the sounds emitted by the individual, because in cetacean species, they are social species. It means that obviously in the pod they have more than 2 individuals, and they will emit sound at the same time. So we need, after that, with triangulation, acoustic triangulation, we can know which individuals emit sounds, and after that we can try to make the link between its behavior and the sound. I also worked on, I will be maybe faster, but I worked on underwater soundscapes. Soundscapes is very interesting because we want to know the part of the human activities in a specific area, like in a marine protected area or close to harbor, industrial harbor, or something like this, or wind farm, offshore wind farm, for example. And so the idea is to record, to put hydrophones and to do recordings constantly. And so it generates a lot of data set. We can record 24/7, and so the data set can be very large. And so the idea, we have 2 things to do. First is to annotate the data set. We want to know we want to identify each sound sources. So it's obviously time consuming because we do that manually. And our idea with the team of Enstar Bretagne, it's a School of Engineering in Brittany, we develop a website and invite people, anonymous people who we never know, who meet, and we ask them, as a citizen science, we ask them to annotate the recording. So we give them some example of sounds we are interested in, like sperm whale clicks or dolphin vocalizations, whistles, or boat sounds, and they click on the different recordings to say, in this recording we have this kind of sound, okay? And we believe in citizen science because we have to go very fast on this annotation, and the annotation step is very important, and so we can't skip it, because after that we will use it to develop classifiers for automatic classification, and we develop deep learning method, and for this neural networks we need annotation of the different sources. So and the thing is now the artificial intelligence, we use it in obviously in different projects, but for the soundscape, it's a very interesting method, especially, and obviously a lot of teams around the world try to develop some architecture of neural networks. And next week, for example, I organize an international conference called DCLDA for detection, classification, localization, density estimation of marine mammal using passive acoustics. and more than 75% of the abstract will be about neural networks, convolutional neural networks. And also, I'm also involved in different activities for the public, like well exhibition, photo exhibition. We did. I participate to different documentary, and for next year, in June 7. I will organize a huge concert in the stadium of Nice. So if you want to join us to celebrate all together the ocean, you will be invited. Okay, voilà. Okay, so observatories. So obviously we need to have information about different species, and for that we will deploy different observatories. And the first idea, obviously, is to answer some biological questions like what species is around, how many individuals, what is the size of the population, what they are doing, if the size is constant or increase or decrease. All this kind of information is very important. And then also we want to know what they need to stay in this area or to come back in this area, depending if it's a resident species or a migratory species. And so what they need for their vital activities, and on the other side is human activities at sea will impact them or not, and if it's impact, what is the level of the impact? In fact, all the cetacean species are on the red list, IUCN red list. It means that they could be in danger for some species, and a lot of other species are with no data deficient. It means that we have no information, and so that's the reason what we want to develop more and more observatories at sea. Here you have the second population of dugong, so it's very important because it means that your conservation, all the work you do for conservation is working, and also it's interesting because we can study them, we can study their behavior, we can also study their sound and how they use sound during their vital activity or social interaction. Okay. Okay, so so the different methods. So we have plenty tools now to do these observations. So I will go pretty fast, but the classic one is a visual observation. It means that we are going at sea to identify the species, to know exactly how number of individuals are around and what they are doing, what is their behavior during the observation. Okay, and now we are more interesting about alternative methods like satellite images, for example, because with satellite imaging we can have a very large area to observe and to know at the same time to know the human activities at the sea surface. The second thing is with visual observations, with photos. Last January in 2024, we have a publication from an American team. They used something like 30 years, catalog of 30 years of photographs from a lot of different teams, and they put it in CNN, in a convolutional neural network, and to extract the size of the North Pacific humpback whale. Okay, it was something like very important. I'm going fast. Okay, I will speak about acoustics, obviously, because so we have a lot of different options. We can use hydrophones. Hydrophones, it's a microphone. We can use hydrophones from the boat. We can also deploy the hydrophone in different mobile platforms like sailboat, like sailing inanimate boat or a vehicle, or glider. And we can also put a static observatory directly in the water. And after that, obviously, we need to process the data. So it's not exactly easy because we have a lot of different challenges because the data will depend of the species, it depends of the weather, depend of the hydrophone, the sensitivity of the hydrophone, and so on and so on. So it makes everything much more complex and obviously the acoustic propagation. Okay. And we have now a new method, and it's interesting because this morning we saw a boat with cable, and so now we use fiber cable because in fact the acoustic, when the acoustic wave hit the cable, generate a noise in it. And so obviously the communication engineers are very against the noise, but different people, including us, are very interesting because it means that a boat is around or a whale is around. And they just published it in 2022, a very nice paper about how we can detect large baleen whale from the cable in the ocean. Okay, alors, very much so, okay. So to conclude, now we can speak whales for hours if you want. Maybe we have time to listen Hampac or not? No? Yes? Are you sure? Ah, oups. Ah, bah non, on peut pas retourner en arrière. Non. Oula. Tout a disparu. Ah voilà. I don't know if we can, how we can... Bon. Conclusion. To conclude. Ocean is important. Alors, okay. Now, study the ocean is needed to better understand how it works and to know more about the non-human species and their marine habitats. We have amazing different tools right now, so it's much more interesting to do it right now than I did 20 years ago, because now it seems that easier. And also because ocean is very important for our economy and our societies and so on. So it means we have to bring all together to do the best work. And also, I think that, and it's why we are here with the Ocean Institute. And also, I think that the education is a key word on all this process, because the new generations of students will be aware about everything for the ocean, okay, almost, and to work together for scientific research, for blue economy, for law and politics, for sociology, for artists, even artists, okay, all together to make more knowledge about the ocean. Okay, this Hampac is from Madagascar, okay, it's a singer from Madagascar, and in fact they will produce different vocalization. Okay, so the other whistle is from Orca. They are not together, but it seems that it's okay, I will speak about Hampac next time. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, and let me introduce now Hervé Claus on underwater gliders.
So I tried. Sorry. So good afternoon, and I will try to quickly define myself. I consider me as an ocean observer, and my main research interests are around ocean observation, and I work on what we call biogeochemical cycles, but more precisely on the production and export of carbon in the open ocean. So I was awarded from 2 main grants from the EU that allowed me to develop new technology, robots, to address these scientific questions. And this is the team I manage in Villefranche-sur-Mer. And you can see on the top figure one of the robots that we deployed and developed. And we speak to discuss with stakeholders. So I will say ocean observation to support governance and management is something that concerns me more and more. And I will say also when we speak of education, I am very proud in some way to be involved in educational activities. So we have developed educational programs for young called Adopt a Float. Adopt a Float is Adopt a Robot, if you want. And also I am founder and co-chief editor of a dedicated journal for young minds, so new generation, and it's called the Ocean Collection. You can find this on the web. For the moment, it's only traduced in English, but it will be in other languages. So today, the outline of my presentation deal with the challenges of ocean observation and how we can use observing the ocean to support science-based decision. I will try to give one example, and also I will conclude on the end in this context to develop a framework for developing robotic-based recurrent observation in waters of Abu Dhabi. Sorry. So we heard that the ocean is vital, so covers 70% of the planet, and is rich and ecosystem system, sustaining 3 billion of individuals, and it plays crucial roles for climate and weather. But at the expense of this, it's warming, rising, less oxygenated, and acidifying. So it's polluted and overexploited, and the sea ice cover diminished. So there is a lot of threat on this environment, and the awareness with respect to this is just nascent, I would say. And sorry. To address this, I would say, climate change issues that are societal problem, we need definitively a lot of data to feed models and analysis, to develop products and services, and to support decision making. And we are today that there are emerging, I would say, societal topics with respect to the BBNG, so the protection of the ice, the biodiversity in the IC, and specifically there are some marine protected areas that could be set up for the IC in the near future. There is the issue of deep sea mining, we heard this also, and also we heard of marine carbon dioxide removal, that is in some way the manipulation in some way of the ICs to extract carbon from the atmosphere and send this carbon down to the deep sediments. So, but at the reverse, the ocean is very difficult to observe because it's vast, remote, and harsh. So the average depth of the ocean is 4,000 meters. So we know only a very small part of this. And if we look, for example, this map showcase for the last 30 years the oceanic cruise that on my specialty that have covered the oceans. You see there are many observational gaps. So if we want to make the comparison with the measurement in the atmosphere, we have at least 1,000, if not another order of magnitude less measurements in the ocean as compared to the atmosphere. And I like to cite this situation from Walter Munk, a physical oceanographer. I will, just to mention that ocean is underexplored and underobserved. And this is the end of my introduction, sorry. So this citation of Proust is very important for me. He said, le véritable voyage de découverte ne consiste pas à chercher de nouveaux paysages, mais à avoir de nouveaux yeux. And here are the new tools, the new eyes that the ocean observer have. We had the research vessel before, but since the beginning of this century, we have a very diverse set of observational tools. So today I will quickly speak from the profiling float, but my emphasis will be on the underwater gliders and what these platforms allow us to do. So we can develop integrated operational network. So I'm speaking from the IC here, and we can continuously measure physical, biogeochemical property, environmental property at the ocean surface and also in the water column. And these networks are key to develop, and that is very important, a baseline knowledge before the implementation of techniques that could change the chemistry, for example, of the ocean, or to see how we can have this knowledge before the implementation of MPA, for example. And also we can construct a 3D, 4D view of key ocean properties. Here we speak of Costa Rica. We have a project as part of the UNOC developing an observation system because it's offshore of Costa Rica in the high sea. There is a hotspot of biodiversity linked to the physical currents that sustain a lot of biodiversity up to the whales. And we have designed an observation system of this Costa Rica so-called dome to sustain an array of profiling float documenting the ocean from the surface down to 4,000 meters to reconstruct a 3D view of this environment and to begin to establish some observational metrics to support future governance if this become MPE. And this is the highly instrumented float that we have developed and that we will deploy next year, including acoustic measurements for the whales and the maritime traffic. So now I come to the waters offshore Abu Dhabi. So the context, we need to develop this scientific knowledge for not only for a better understanding of a given oceanic system, but also to take informed decisions with respect to sustainable management. This means fisheries, protection of MPAs, of mitigation solution in case of environment modification. So we heard of desalination, or crisis, pollution, and extreme event like heat waves or hypoxia. And so the requirements and the constraints for this system, we need more observation, we need more diverse and better observation, and we need cost-effective observation. And here you have the specificity of shallow waters with potential effect of biofouling. So one possible solution is gliders. So I will show you in this video. Sorry for the music. Just the way this glider is profiling in a sea during its travel from the surface to the ocean and collecting sample when going to deep. And then after, when it rises to the surface, so this is the light seen by it can transmit the data through the antenna and thanks to a satellite transmission system. And you receive in real time this data, and you can decide to sample and to change your sampling scheme. And you can have also several gliders that can sample this. This is an example we have offshore Orlab. Orlab is in the south of France, and we do this regularly between France and Corsica. So there are plenty of possible measurements. If you change the noise of this system of observation, you can have access to physical properties, to biological properties, to chemical properties, acoustic monitoring, or specific applications. And so just the framework, and this is my final slide before conclusion, we should first, if we want to implement such observation system, identify the key relevant scientific question and the management requirements. So we are not the experts. We have to discuss to see what are the critical points here to develop such kind of system. We should start to implement, I would say, something identified in a specific area with a simple system that we could progressively complexify as soon as the science question and the management question could be more refined. And this is, thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Hervé. The nice thing, I didn't hear you telling that they can stay for months at sea. Yeah. So, and now our last panelist, Beatrice, please. So you can.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank the director of the Ocean Institute at Sorbonne University, Abu Dhabi, for this invitation. It's an honor to be here at the first international conference of the Institute. I will talk about marine plastic pollution, but from a legal and policy perspective. I'll share a little bit about my background. I recently joined Sorbonne University Abu Dhabi as an associate professor at the law department. I have done, my area of expertise is environmental law. Prior to being an academic, I worked at the United Nations, UNCTAD in Geneva, as an environmental consultant, and also at the private sector with carbon trading. My research areas, I have done research recently on marine plastic pollution and also on the decarbonization of the shipping sector. All right, so the Ocean Institute, in my view, has been created at the right time, in the right place. Right time because, as we have discussed today, we have several important developments in the maritime governance, including all those treaties and strategies, such as the marine plastic pollution, which is now being negotiated, and other treaties that have been adopted in 2023 that we have mentioned today as well. And the idea is, with new treaties, new policies, it also comes new obligations, new processes, new mechanisms that countries have to prepare for. So the idea is that the UAE, like other countries in the world, the UAE will have to prepare for implementing those treaties and policies that have been recently adopted. And what we see happening, and that's why we're in the right place, there is a current drive in this country to tackle, in particular, plastic pollution. For example, we have a recent national scheme to combat marine plastic pollution that have been launched by the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment. We have new partnerships, for example, with Indonesia to reduce waste leakage. So all those things point into the direction that this country is making efforts to reduce plastic pollution. So the project that I would like to share with you and potentially develop at the Oceans Institute relates to designing effective national action plans. So the idea is we now have a draft text of the future Treaty on Plastic Pollution. And one big part of this treaty is part 4, which is about national implementation. So under part 4 of the draft text, countries are required to develop national action plans, which in other words is like a national policy that each country will have, really explaining how they will implement the plastic pollution treaty. So setting, for example, targets, timelines, setting mechanisms, for example, to tackle waste management. So all those things have to be outlined in those national action plans, NAPs. So the idea with this project is to look at these 2 main questions here. First, to see what would be key elements that should be included in the future national action plan of the UAE, right? Second question would be, what would be the best ways for us to ensure compliance with the future Treaty on Plastic Pollution, but also monitor progress of the targets that will be set under the National Action Plan. So these are things that will be looking at that research on a future action plan for the UAE. Right, so how would we develop this research? So this is very much about understanding what are the priorities of this country in its future national action plan. So the idea is to work in collaboration with organizations based in the UAE to understand what are the priorities of the Emirates that should be reflected in the action plan, but also what processes that we should put in place, in particular to ensure compliance with the future treaty on plastic pollution and also monitoring. Are we really getting to those targets that we'll be putting under the National Action Plan? How are we going to measure if we're having any progress? So these are questions that we have to understand, right? So the methods to develop this research will include, of course, desktop research, literature review, an analysis of national and international legislation, but also interviews and surveys with those national stakeholders to really identify those things. What are the priorities? What are the best mechanisms that could be used to make sure that we really get to the targets, implement the targets under a future national action plan. Right, and this is my last point. If we do develop this research, what is the transferable knowledge that we get out of this research? The research and knowledge related to the designing and implementation of the UAE NAP, National Action Plan, can be also and should be also shared with other countries. And why is that? Other countries will be doing the same exercise. So when the new treaty on plastic pollution comes into force, countries will have to start developing their national action plans. So this is an exercise that every country will have to do. So this experience that we start and develop here could be shared with other countries, particularly in the MENA region, right? So with that in mind, the idea is that this knowledge that we generate here under the Institute for Oceans could be shared, for example, through as capacity building, as active trainings that we could potentially provide to governmental agencies within this region, not only about the plastic pollution treaty, about NAPs, national action plans, but also eventually about these other treaties that have been recently adopted in 2023, such as the Treaty on Biodiversity Conservation in Areas Beyond National Jurisdiction, such as the IMO strategy to reduce greenhouse gas emissions that has been revised in 2023. So these are all new things, as I said, new obligations, new policies, new processes that countries have to be aware of and start understanding how these things will translate into national action and implementation. So all these things could be discussed and developed within those trainings that could potentially be done to countries in this region. Okay, so here you have more information about my background, also my email. Finally, I would like to thank you all for this opportunity. Thank you, Admiral Pazouk, for this opportunity. And I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Beatrice. This concludes the presentation of 5 of the projects that the Ocean Institute is working on. And I leave the scene to the next panel. Shall I?
Thank you. Thank you for presenting your unique research project and shedding light on these critical areas for action for ocean preservation. We now enter the final part of this international conference, and after hearing from policymakers, institutional partners, and academia actors, we would like to give the floor to industry actors who are at the forefront of the ocean and climate change. As regrettably, Dr. Yasser Al-Wahdi is not able to join us today, so we will begin by giving the floor to a major stakeholder of maritime transport and industry to present to us their actions towards ocean and environment preservation. Please welcome on stage Mr. Jean-Baptiste Longin, General Manager of CMA, CGM in the UAE, Qatar, and Oman.
Bonsoir, good evening. Please stay a bit. It's not over. It might be the most interesting part of the conference. So my name is Jean-Baptiste Longin, and I'm representing today CMA CGM. So what is CMA CGM? CMA CGM is a transportation and logistic group led by Rodolphe Saadé, so the chairman and CEO of the group. So we act on sea, we act on land, on air, and on logistic solutions. 180,000 staff, are working around the world for the group, and we do operate 600 vessels, which are calling 420 ports. How is the group? How are the group activities divided? So obviously you've got the core activity of the group, the shipping activities, which represent 70% of the turnover of the company. Then we've got a new division with the air activity under the brand of CMA CGM Air Cargo. We do operate 4 aircraft today, and 4 more are under ordering. Then we've got a land and logistics division under the umbrella of Siva Logistics. And maybe some of you have followed the news. Siva Logistics is acquiring at the moment, is integrating Bolloré Logistics, so which makes our, let's say, employees' volume grow tremendously. We welcome 30,000 employees of Bolloré as we speak at the moment. And last but not the least, we've got port and terminal divisions. We are running over 50 terminals around the world, including some landmark terminals in New York, in Los Angeles, in Singapore, and very soon in Abu Dhabi, in Khalifa Port. This is a major milestone for the group, which is willing to, let's say, move its strategic positioning in the region, in the Middle East, Indian subcontinent, and Africa sub-region, from Dubai more to Abu Dhabi. So Abu Dhabi for CMA CGM Group is a very, very important hub to come. So what is CMA CGM doing towards decarbonation? And first, it's important to highlight the fact that the private sector is also playing a critical role in when it comes to decarbonation and when it comes to research and development and greener energies, greener mode of transportation from what we are concerned. We strongly believe that nobody can act alone. And we as a private sector, we definitely need the research, the university, but we strongly believe that a public partnership is a way to engage this problematic of climate change and biodiversity endangerment. So what do we do? Two main, let's say, two main pillars. First, we try to reduce as much as possible our energy consumption. This also goes through AI. If you take the route of our ship, for example, the fastest and most effective route of a ship is not necessarily a straight line from point A to point B. The most efficient way to go from a point A to a point B and save energy is actually following the current. So we've got AI developed tools internally who allow us instead of forcing our engines to follow the flow of the current. So that's number one. And also we are working heavily now for over a decade in a low carbon energy development. So we've got a full team of R&D working on sustainable energy development. Just some few concrete examples. So among 600 ships today, 119 ships are capable of burning low carbon fuels. We speak about liquefied natural gas, methanol, e-methane, and so on. So today we've got almost 80, and in 4 years' time we'll have more than 100 ships sailing under this source of energy. Then our chairman has decided 2 years ago to create an energy fund called Pulse of $1.5 billion US, which is dedicated to greener mode of transportation and of propulsion. We are also a member of the New Energy Coalition Group, which is a newly formed coalition 2 years ago between many actors of the industry, not only shipping. This coalition is gathering Airbus, for example, or NG, because again, sometimes, or even Maersk, one of our biggest competitors, we believe that when it comes to decarbonation and environmental protection, there is no competition, right? We all have to collaborate. So we strongly believe that gathering forces is the key to tackle these issues. In terms of CSR, we base our strategy on 3 key pillars. So we act for people, we act for the planet, and we act for fair trade. And today, obviously, we want to focus on what is CMA-CGM doing for the planet protection. So we wanted to bring to you a concrete example of what is being done by CMA-CGM. We work on many different aspects of protection of the environment, but we wanted to focus on 2 main, let's say, pillars the group is focusing on. So there is plastic, so fighting against plastic. For this, there was a very bold decision from our chairman 3 years ago to ban any transportation of plastic waste on board our ships. This sounds like an easy decision to take, but for us it represented a heavy business impact. We speak about almost 30,000 containers transported every year, so it's a revenue loss which was created. But nevertheless, the decision was taken. We don't want to generate some hubs of plastic waste being transported from producing areas, most of the time Europe and Northern America, to countries which used to receive this plastic scrap and became kind of dumping grounds for plastic. So this is banned for 3 years now. And then we are engaging into recycling projects all over the world, and we want to focus on one of them just after this one. And second pillar we want to focus on today is the biodiversity restoration through coral reef. So one very important project we are running is in partnership with an NGO in Kenya named Flip Floppy. This project is actually combining both plastic, let's say plastic pollution fight and mangrove restoration in the northern area of Kenya, in the Lamu archipelago, for those who know. It's a very beautiful archipelago, unfortunately being extremely damaged by plastic pollution. So we've got a short movie to show you, just to give you a bit of example of what is being done.
we are trying to say, no time to waste. Join me as we plant mangroves in Seal Village.
Thank you. So, as you can see, we try to cover the full chain of this plastic pollution. So, first, we want to clean the mangroves. This is a super heavy job. So, the professor earlier was explaining that the carbon is captured on 30 centimeters below the soil, if I'm not mistaken. Here, plastic, sometimes we are extracting some plastic waste 2 meters down the mangrove soil. So I think we cannot imagine when we are not on site how serious this pollution is. So we extract these plastics and we pay the villagers somehow for this, are happy to contribute to this. Then we encourage the villagers as well to, instead of trashing their plastics into the ocean, which is the habit for forever, because they do as their ancestors were doing, meaning using the ocean as a dumping place without realizing the consequences. So then we educate them, we go to their place with this small trolley, charrette that you could see earlier, and we collect plastic which will be recycled then. One big finding, we had 2 big findings running this project with Flip-Floppy after a few months of operation. First, 75%, as you could see in the movie, 75% of this plastic is actually coming from textile. So it's hard to believe, but 3/4 of the waste is actually coming from textile. So we are working with Flip-Floppy on let's say, process developments to recycle these textiles. Very complicated. A lot of this textile, a big part of this textile is coming actually from plastic residues, or plastic origin product. So we try to put it in place, some recycling processes around the textile. And second point, which is maybe the most important one, is education. Actually, so we don't want only to act by removing the plastic, recycling, and then that's it. No, most important for us is to understand how these beautiful places and now endangered places can become so polluted, right? And we basically asked the population, the local population. So it's a village, CU is a village of around 200 people. And we asked them, okay, are you ready to change your habits on trash dumping, right? And I mean, we are already, I mean, we did not believe, we would not have believed before this poll, the feedbacks. Actually, 65% of the population was just saying, yeah, I will continue dumping my trash in the ocean. I always did that. My ancestors were doing like that. This is how we do here. So I see no problem dumping all my trash, including plastic, in the ocean. So we realize that actually what can sound, let's say, obvious to some of the population is actually not at all obvious to another part of the population. So education. So with Flip-Floppy, we put in place some education programs in CU, but also in other parts of the archipelago, just to make sure, especially the younger generations, can immediately take some good habits and be let's say, raised in terms of awareness, right? So this is for the first project, fighting plastic and helping mangrove to rehabilitate. Second project we are having is in the UAE, in partnership with a Reframe, where the objective is to, let's say, study the reef, nurturing reef, right? So we are implementing 4 coral nurseries in the UAE. We did build and install 10 permanent artificial reef structures, and we are engaging the community and part of CMCGM staff in this partnership. So the main objective of this is to create and study 2.4 square kilometers of new coral installed on artificial reefs. So since the beginning of the project, in a nutshell, what has been done? We did build 4 nursery tables. We did plant a bit more than 1 meter of artificial reef. We gathered 11 volunteers in this scholarship. Part of them are from CMA-CGM. I think we've got a cohort of 7 or 8 new volunteers, which is coming. And we've got 450 corals in the nursery. So this is just the beginning for this program. There is so much more to be done, right? One concrete example, so we want to tap energy. Then our chairman has decided 2 years ago to create an energy fund called Pulse of $1.5 billion US, which is dedicated to greener mode of transportation and of propulsion. We are also a member of the New Energy Coalition Group, which is a newly formed coalition 2 years ago between many actors of the industry, not only shipping. This coalition is gathering Airbus, for example, or ENGIE, because again, sometimes, or even Maersk, one of our biggest competitors, we believe that when it comes to decarbonation and environmental protection, there is no competition, right? We all have to collaborate. So we strongly believe that gathering forces is the key to tackle these issues. In terms of CSR, we base our strategy on 3 key pillars. So we act for people, we act for the planet, and we act for fair trade. And today, obviously, we want to focus on what is CMA-CGM doing for the planet protection. So we wanted to bring to you a concrete example of what is being done by CMA-CGM. We work on many different aspects of protection of the environment, but we wanted to focus on 2 main, let's say, pillars the group is focusing on. So there is plastic, so fighting against plastic. For this, there was a very bold decision from our chairman 3 years ago to ban any transportation of plastic waste on board our ships. This sounds like an easy decision to take, but for us it represented a heavy business impact. We speak about almost 30,000 containers transported every year, so it's a revenue loss which was created. But nevertheless, the decision was taken. We don't want to generate some hubs of plastic waste being transported from producing areas, most of the time Europe and Northern America, to countries which used to receive this plastic scrap and became kind of dumping grounds for plastic. So this is banned for 3 years now. And then we are engaging into recycling projects all over the world, and we want to focus on one of them just after this one. And second pillar we want to focus on today is the biodiversity restoration through coral reef. So one very important project we are running is in partnership with an NGO in Kenya named Flip Floppy. This project is actually combining both plastic, let's say plastic pollution fight and mangrove restoration in the northern area of Kenya, in the Lamu archipelago, for those who know. It's a very beautiful archipelago, unfortunately being extremely damaged by plastic pollution. So we've got a short movie to show you, just to give you a bit of example of what is being done.
we are trying to say, no time to waste. Join me as we plant mangroves in Siu village.
Thank you. So, as you can see, we try to cover the full chain of this plastic pollution. So, first, we want to clean the mangroves. This is a super heavy job. So, the professor earlier was explaining that the carbon is captured on 30 centimeters below the soil, if I'm not mistaken. Here, plastic, sometimes we are extracting some plastic waste 2 meters down the mangrove soil. So I think we cannot imagine when we are not on site how serious this pollution is. So we extract these plastics and we pay the villagers somehow for this, are happy to contribute to this. Then we encourage the villagers as well to, instead of trashing their plastics into the ocean, which is the habit for forever, because they do as their ancestors were doing, meaning using the ocean as a dumping place without realizing the consequences. So then we educate them, we go to their place with this small trolley, charrette that you could see earlier, and we collect plastic which will be recycled then. One big finding, we had 2 big findings running this project with flip-floppy after a few months of operation. First, 75%, as you could see in the movie, 75% of this plastic is actually coming from textile. So it's hard to believe, but 3/4 of the waste is actually coming from textile. So we are working with flip-floppy on let's say, process developments to recycle these textiles. Very complicated. A lot of this textile, a big part of this textile is coming actually from plastic residues or plastic origin product. So we try to put it in place, some recycling processes around the textile. And second point, which is maybe the most important one, is education. Actually, so we don't want only to act by removing the plastic, recycling, and then that's it. No, most important for us is to understand how these beautiful places and now endangered places can become so polluted, right? And we basically asked the population, the local population. So it's a village, Siu is a village of around 200 people. And we asked them, okay, are you ready to change your habits on trash dumping, right? And I mean, we are already, I mean, we did not believe, we would not have believed before this poll, the feedbacks. Actually, 65% of the population was just saying, yeah, I will continue dumping my trash in the ocean. I always did that. My ancestors were doing like that. This is how we do here. So I see no problem dumping all my trash, including plastic, in the ocean. So we realize that actually what can sound, let's say, obvious to some of the population is actually not at all obvious to another part of the population. So education. So with flip-floppy, we put in place some education programs in Siu, but also in other parts of the archipelago, just to make sure, especially the younger generations, can immediately take some good habits and be let's say, raised in terms of awareness, right? So this is for the first project, fighting plastic and helping mangrove to rehabilitate. Second project we are having is in the UAE, in partnership with a Reframe, where the objective is to, let's say, study the reef, nurturing reef, right? So we are implementing 4 coral nurseries in the UAE. We did build and install 10 permanent artificial reef structures, and we are engaging the community and part of CMCGM staff in this partnership. So the main objective of this is to create and study 2.4 square kilometers of new coral installed on artificial reefs. So since the beginning of the project, in a nutshell, what has been done? We did build 4 nursery tables. We did plant a bit more than 1 meter of artificial reef. We gathered 11 volunteers in this scholarship. Part of them are from CMA-CGM. I think we've got a cohort of 7 or 8 new volunteers, which is coming. And we've got 450 corals in the nursery. So this is just the beginning for this program. There is so much more to be done, right? One concrete example, so we want to test the new depths to plant coral. We want to make sure the coral we are planting on the reefs can sustain on the long term with a rise of ocean temperature. The lower now the coral is being planted, the more it will die. So we are testing some new depth of preservation for the coral. So in a nutshell, that's it. This is what CMA-CGM is doing. So not only the public sector can act, but the private sector is also very proud and eager to act. Any partnership, any recommendation, any support from the public sector is obviously always welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jean-Baptiste. Last but not least, let's dive into the world of these new factories for genetic product, as the World Economic Forum describes them. Please welcome on stage Professor Philippe Le Baron, Senior Advisor for Economic Partnerships at the Presidency Office of Sorbonne University, to talk about biofoundry.
Where is the pointer? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Maybe you start to be tired now. So I will talk about another project coming from that we try to implement at the Ocean Institute in Sorbonne, Abu Dhabi. Just a few words about myself. I have been the director of the marine station in Bagnols-sur-Mer, south of France, during 10 years, and I am a marine biologist, much more interested in biotechnology and microbial ecology. And now I'm working at the President's, working on the partnerships with companies in different topics. So what I want to present today is a project that we have. We started in Paris few years ago, and it's an early project that we are thinking about the way to implement this project also in Abu Dhabi, because it seems to make sense. And I would like to explain what is the biofoundry. Biofoundry, what is interesting in this project is that, as you know, and as it was said before, I think it was Christophe who said that, in the marine environment we have an important resources which are unknown actually in terms of biodiversity. Many organisms, mostly microorganisms, algae, are unknown, and it's an important potential for many products that can be helpful for the society. At the same time, the ocean is actually under many impact, societal impact in terms of pollution, but in terms also of increase in the world population, and mostly these people are living on the coast, and the impact on the ocean is very important. At the same time, when we want to, for example, to use some resources from the marine environment, one of the key issues is can we extract or take these resources from the ocean just to extract some compounds which may be useful for the society. because those resources are going down and the population is increasing, the needs are increasing. So there is one way that we can use to try to combine, the interest of using compounds coming from the marine organisms and do not, use too much of the living organisms which are in the ocean. And this is the biofoundry that I would like to introduce today. Yeah, just before it was, but Christophe already said about that. We in Sorbonne University we are lucky because we have 5 different marine stations with many researchers in many different topics, and so of course we have many training programs on the students. And we do, from this domain of marine biology, every year we have a few startup companies who start, to try to develop based on marine resources or many kind of marine applications. At the Ocean Institute, we decided at the beginning to include 3 different topics. One is the one that you heard about, my colleagues today, about different kind of applications for biodiversity, for monitoring the environment, for many, marine applications, and the eDNA also for just to analyze the biodiversity. Another part is what I want to present now is a biofoundry, bioengineering microorganisms. And the other part is education, and yes, what you said before about plastics, education is very essential, and we need to do a lot about that. And we need to educate the students, the young people, but also the general public. So what about the biofoundry, it was the first biofoundries were designed something like 20 years ago, not more than that. And it's a new way to, we call that the new industrial revolution made with biology. And the applications of biofoundry can be in environmental biotechnologies, it can be in green chemistry, food, agriculture, materials in general, energy and health. And in a publication in The Economist, it was in 2020, they estimate the direct economic impact of more or less 4,000 billions of dollars. And this is something really which developed actually a lot in different countries. So what is the biofoundry? The biofoundry is a sort of infrastructure that we use for bioengineering. Can we use a pointer here? No, it does not work. So what we do at the beginning is that we design some genes coming from different organisms, genes who are necessary to produce a specific compound. And as soon as you have this design of genes, you can build a sort of construction inside an organism that we will use to produce or to make these genes operational and functional. Next, we do some tests to check if the organisms that we try to manipulate is able to produce the product, and we try to optimize this production. And next, we do some machine learning also to contribute to this optimization of the production. In the world, actually, there are more or less 30 biofoundries, but there is no biofoundries based on the use of algae. And the ones that we develop in Paris and that we suggest, which could be developed here, is based on algae. What are the different markets that we can, touch with this kind of production? It can be the synthetic genomes to produce some new genomes by just synthesis, to produce some specific materials. We will talk about that later. It can be used also in agriculture and food. It can be used for health, of course, for many applications in health. It can be used for cosmetics and perfumes. This is something already done in many
biofoundries, the environmental transition in terms of bioremediation and production of biofuels, for example, and in terms also of digital applications like storage and DNA. This is something new, the storage based on the use of DNA. In many petroleum refineries, actually, we use oil, of course, crude oil, to produce different kind of things, fuels, but also petrochemicals. So this is the regular biofoundry, how it works. What we suggest today is to develop some new biofoundries based on very simple things, sun and CO2. This is something, very easy, based on the capacity of some organisms to produce organic matter or to produce organisms based on the use of energy from sun and carbon from carbon dioxide. And these algal biorefineries actually can be used, to produce the same biofuels and also different kind of molecules with some added value in different domains, as I said before. And we just use algae. So if you use algae, you have to go to be outside because you need the light, the natural sun. But during the night, you can use also diodes to provide light to the algae with a very low cost in terms of energy. And you need also carbon dioxide. What is interesting in this application is that carbon dioxide can be carbon dioxide produced by different kind of industries, for example. It can be produced by incineration plants, for example. So instead of giving the CO2 to the atmosphere, you direct the CO2 to the biorefinery. So you give the CO2 to the algae, and the algae will produce some products with added value. So the domain of applications of this algal biofoundry are very diverse. It can be for food, it can be for human use, for example. It can be proteins, it can be many things. It can be for aquaculture also, just for the feeding of fish. It can be used for dyes, food dyes, for example. It can be also, as I said before, for cosmetics. It can be used for cosmetics like pigments, antioxidants, anti-aging, different kind of creams that we can use for the treatment of skin. It can be for skin protection, like solar cream, for example, or sunscreen. It can be used for wastewater treatment plant, for depollution. It can be used also to provide, to produce fertilizers coming from a biosource, and stimulants also. For health, it can be used for, again, different kind of applications for therapeutics, proteins, for example. It can be used for vaccines. It can be used for anti-inflammatory compounds. It can be used for cancer, for example, for cytotoxic compounds that we can use in cancer, for example, by immunotherapy. It can be used to produce antibiotics coming from the different kind of organisms that we find in the sea. It can be used for energy to produce biofuels, but also carbon biomass. It can be used for plastics. Actually, this is an important application of the biofoundry, and we started a project in Paris with a company coming from the cosmetics to try to produce, because actually we are speaking about banning plastics, and there is a fight between those who want to continue to use plastics and those who don't want plastics. But there is something in between, because we can produce some bioplastics from a natural source, mostly from bacteria, what we call PHA, PHB. And in these plastics, many of these plastics are biodegradable. So this kind of plastics can be very, very useful, because we need sometimes for some applications plastics, because we do not have alternatives. And so it's interesting to to use plastics but coming from this biosource, which are biodegradable. So this is what we decided to start in Sorbonne, Paris. These two guys, Stéphane Lemaire and Pierre Crozet, are those who are at the origin of this algal biofoundry. They are very, very good scientists, and they went, Stéphane Lemaire, for example, he went all over the world in all the biofoundries, in all the biofoundries which exist in the world, and just to have some sort of benchmark of what is done. And he decided to produce the first algal biofoundry in the world. And when we discuss about that, when we discuss about the fact that we could maybe use or develop the biofoundry here in Abu Dhabi, we were thinking about that, and the opportunities were about sunlight. Here you have maybe too much sun, but an important resource in terms of sun. Heat, of course, we don't need to provide heat. Heat is natural here. You have lands, many lands. So the need for square kilometers is not a problem here. And seawater, of course, you have the seawater, which is not a problem. So this is why we are thinking about that, and of course you have all these resources that we need, and the marine algae is something that we can, find here in the natural seawater. We have also collections of algae, which are marine algae, and which are also adapted to high temperature, because it's something that we need here. If we start with a biofoundry, we need to have organisms which are able to grow at high temperature, like 30, 35, 40 degrees, even more. And so this is something which is not a problem. We have algae which are adapted to the climate here. And so it would be the one way to develop the first algal biofoundry in the world with some industrial partners. What we do, what I showed you before, what was done by Stéphane and Pierre, is that these people are people which are able to create the algae by the introduction of some specific genes to produce any kind of molecules that you want to produce for food, for health, for any kind of things. So they will make the genetic construction of the algae, but after that, when you have this in hands, you need a company who is able to build this kind of design that you can here see on the right side. Because what the main limitation for that is that we need very large volumes produced by the industrial installation if you want to make a business, because we need to produce an important quantity of products. For example, if you produce, I don't know, antibiotics or proteins, you need to produce a lot to balance your economic model. But this is not a problem here. And what we did in France, for example, is that we contacted a few companies, and we got an agreement with a company on the west part of the coast. And this company, which is called Carbon Works, is very interested to see if they can participate to this development here in Abu Dhabi. They are building the first industry on the west coast of France, and these guys could be interested to have this kind of installation here, because if you have the biofoundry or the genetic construction alone, of course it does not work, because you need to produce, and so we need to have a partnership with a company. So we have already found one company, but it can be another company. So this is what we need to produce, and yeah, this is the kind of developments that we could organize at the Institute of Ocean here. We need also some artificial intelligence to optimize to optimize the different process, and we are lucky because here we have the Artificial Intelligence Institute at the same time, so they will work together just to provide all the skills and competence that we need for this kind of development. So this is what I wanted to tell you today about another part of the development of the Marine Institute here in Abu Dhabi in connection with the Sky Institute, the Artificial Intelligence Institute. And another part of the that Christophe mentioned, but just a little bit, was the outreach activities on the training activities. Of course, we need to train students here in Abu Dhabi from Emirates to be trained to all these different kind of techniques in biology, in genetics, in physics, and so this is important to implement the training courses at the bachelor level, master level, and PhD level to be sure that with time, in 10 years, 15 years, we will have enough people from here, students from here, which are trained to all this technique, because we need, it's important in terms of maintenance, and so we need people for that. Also, you will need here, if we do that, you will need here in the Emirates engineers and technicians which are able to do the job, in fact. And another part of that is also the training of the public. As it was said before, for the plastics, it's very, very important to train. Better with this, maybe too late. It's important to train the general public about all these techniques. And so this is why we were thinking about the same, and to see. We did that in one of the marine stations in France, and you have a public aquarium here in Abu Dhabi, and maybe it's not necessary to have another one, but maybe to have some collaboration with this public aquarium to give conference, to give some animation inside the public aquarium just to educate the people to what is marine biology, what are the marine resources, and to explain what is biofoundry, because it's not easy to understand at the beginning. So we need to educate also the population to understand why we do that. And the impact of the biofoundry on the environment is very low, in fact, because we do not have waste. We just need, as I said before, the sun on the carbon dioxide, and we produce the products that we want to produce. Yes, this is what I said before. We need also to develop the training at different levels, like training at the bachelor level, master level, and PhD degree, and to combine with outreach activities. And this development of the algal biofoundry in Abu Dhabi has a very important potential, as it is the case in France, because it's one way to produce at low cost different kind of compounds, and sometimes compounds with an important added value, like anti-cancer, for example, molecules or antibiotics. It's very interesting in terms of emergence of startup companies. It is the same for artificial intelligence, but even for the biofoundry. Stéphane Lemaire, for example, was in charge of the development of a small startup company based on the use of DNA for the storage of information. So this kind of activity by the bioengineering activity may be very, very interesting in terms of emergence of new startup companies. Of course, it's an important, an interesting project in terms of job opportunities and training, and a sustainable activity, because there is no reason that this activity will not be for the long term. That's it. I think this is what I wanted to tell you today. Thank you.
This is the third and last time you will see the invisible man who have been in charge of pronouncing a short conclusion of this afternoon. First, I want to thank all the speakers, panelists, authorities, organizers of this extremely exciting meeting. Good wills have been gathered in Sorbonne, Abu Dhabi, and have opened wide windows for the future. We have plunged in an ocean of questions and opportunities ranging from international treaties and agreements to blue economy and science, covering biorefinery, biodiversity, deep sea mining, illegal fishing, decarbonation, plastic pollution, climate change, etc. Marine resources and marine ecology have been central in our discussions. Like camels and oryx, fishes don't read maps. They don't see frontiers. Neither do plankton, marine mammals, and microalgae. But they feel and react to heat waves, salt, pH, oxygen, light, turbidity, chemical or plastic pollution. And these physical and chemical properties are themselves drifted by ocean currents through our rivers, gulfs, straits, seas, and oceans. This is the point one to remember of this afternoon, the international approach. All the bodies of water are linked, sometimes through a loose, long-term, long-range, difficult to predict link, like the one connecting the El Niño ocean phenomena off the coast of Costa Rica and the monsoon regime in the northwestern Indian Ocean. And they are connected. One country alone, even with the most developed tools and research labs, cannot tackle the issues of this connected ocean. The ocean, like our atmosphere, biodiversity, or climate, requires powerful international cooperation. This is true for science, but also for law, trade, and geopolitics. Number two to remember is about interdisciplinarity and holistic approaches. It is impossible to address, let's say, the question of ocean sustainable resources if you don't have any clue on currents, on climate, on anthropic stress, on noise, chemistry, economy, law of the sea, sociology, not only along your coast, but also in your region and ocean. The Sorbonne Abu Dhabi Ocean Institute will gather a large number of disciplines and will feed cooperation with research teams and governmental agencies. Its approach will be tailored by local needs and will promote holistic approaches and will remain connected to large-scale ocean science. Point number 3 to remember is that we're about to experience a scientific revolution in our understanding of life. And this revolution will begin in the salty waters of the ocean. We used to segregate our approaches between big things, dugongs, whales, small ones, fishes, shrimps, and tiny ones like DNA molecules and proteins. Thanks to AI and data science, with the help of high-frequency observing systems based on sound, images, or DNA, we are about, in the near future, to gather all these approaches in one. This will enable us to understand how micro-scale changes trigger large-scale phenomena, like blooms or extinctions. Applying the most advanced observing technologies, the SUAD Ocean Institute will benefit from the capabilities of the SUAD AI Center to play an innovative role in this revolution to come. Furthermore, the knowledge built and transmitted at the SUAD Ocean Institute will allow the development of ambitious industrial projects such as the biorefinery we just heard about, and the emergence of startup companies. In exactly 1 year, UNOC 3, UNOC 2025, will emphasize the need to strengthen the relation between science and policy in order to address ocean concerns. The Suad Ocean Institute will contribute to this ambition for the UAE in cooperation with the French Sorbonne Ocean Institute and various organizations within the UAE and the region. I am very proud to be part of this vision and initiative. I'm sure that this productive and passionate afternoon will generate fruitful partnerships and cooperation for us to build on. Thank you for your support and your attention.
Thank you, Admiral. Dear guests, thank you all for joining us today. And I would like to thank one more time our esteemed speakers and partners. And I would also like to invite you to the atrium for a special guided tour of the exhibition Living Colors for Pure Ocean with the photographer Christophe Schela-Permal. If you would like to make an impact today, you can contribute to advancing the world-class research of the Ocean Institute by acquiring a photography and becoming a patron of the Ocean Institute. Thank you for coming, thank you for your attention, and have a great evening.